I would
Well,
regret
hey.
it if people look back at the first episode and you weren't on it.
Yeah, well, I like that. It's called forward thinking.
We have one of the worst beats in the world. We do. Our beat is horrible.
Connor could shove that article up his ass.
And then I went to that game, and I was like, this is the greatest team I've ever seen in my life. I'm a Jet fan. This is going to be the greatest run ever. Yeah.
No, because if they take Ekwonu, I'm not complaining.
Joe Douglas is the king of keeping shit close to the vest.
A 2, a 4, and a 6 for Darnold?
Did the Jets really ruin Sam Darnold, or did Sam Darnold just suck all along and we were just trying to talk ourselves into it?
And Hamilton is a player who can potentially make a very big impact.
And suddenly here we are today. You can't get rid of him.
Right. It's like a plague.
Joe Douglas was hired because he's not those general managers.
Okay, Luscious.
Somebody is going to fall just like Elijah Moore did, just like Michael Carter did.
You know, what would, if you had one sentence to say to Joe Douglas, what would you say? So you would say, you had me at hello, and then give him a big old wet one right on the smack.
Hello. And sorry for the dead space, but like this didn't play on my computer. It was like the weirdest thing. Like, so I couldn't even tell when the promo video ended. So, I know that you this is strange, isn't it? Welcome to Wacky Wednesday. And it's wacky. It's a wacky Wednesday. But I don't know why you guys are freaking out. Like Twisted is like, what TF? Let me. I see what you're talking about. Okay, so Twisted wants to know if I'm mining. What's going on, David Gerard? What's going on, Johnny G? What's going on? Who is he? Jets 830. I love this guy. I love Jets 830. I love him. Hey, J. Cole, how you doing? I love Twisted. I love Jim Pock, and I love Jacob Finnegan. Love you guys. Jets messes here. Master Snacker. He's in the house. What's going on, everybody? Let's get started. We the people are here. What's going on, guys? All right. So without further ado, let me introduce to you. Why is it like so quiet? It feels so quiet. Oh, because I'm alone here talking to myself. Let me introduce to you my co-host. That's right. The man, you know him, the legend. He's a Ranger fan. He's a Met fan. He's a Knicks fan. And most importantly, he's a Jet fan. Ladies and gentlemen, Y2K99. What's going on, brother?
Ladies, if you're out there watching, I just want you to know Jeremy would be willing to take you out for a couple of drinks, but he's a minor.
Ooh, that is a comedy sports groaner foul.
I had another one at work today. So we had this new employee partnership. We work with these different medical companies at the school I work at. And my admissions rep that I work with a lot, she says, "Hey, Adam, do we have a partnership with the National Sitting and Mobility Foundation?" At first, I thought she was BSing me. I thought she was making up a company. I said, "The National Sitting and Mobility Foundation. I wonder who their chairman is."
Yeah. That's great. I love it. Man, hey, I'm almost fully recovered. Like, I got to say, I mean, I'm not like recovered, like nothing happened. But I mean, like the sting, the trauma, the awful feeling, all that stuff is kind of went away. I'm kind of shifting now to the future and what we need to do. And I mean, I don't love our situation. There's things that I wish weren't the case, but I don't know. I'm not feeling devastated anymore. Like the anger is gone, and now it's time to like regroup and start figuring things out. Where are you at?
You know what? I've learned something. When I am at my angriest, that's when my videos get the most attention. It is well proven. My two angriest videos that I've made out of like 200 now are the first and third most viewed videos I've ever done. But At this point, I'm still incredibly disappointed. And more than anything, yes, I'm feeling the need to want to turn the page, but I find myself starting to second guess things that I thought I knew even a couple of weeks ago, wondering, where's this coaching staff really stand? Where do some of these players stand? Will these players be back? Will those players be back? And what do we really do to get this team to that next level? Yes, we'll have players coming back from injury for sure, and that will definitely make quite the difference. But outside of quarterback, I'm starting to really ponder about what the Jets' biggest priorities are in both the free agency and the draft. And I did everything I could to not think about it for so long because I didn't want to think about a mock draft. I didn't want to think about a draft prospect. I didn't want to watch a college bowl game because I felt all my attention had to be on the regular season and finding a way into the playoffs. Well, as we all know, that dream is dashed. And, now our biggest argument for a couple of days that Jets fans can have is, should we tank or should we actually hope that they win this game? And then it'll be straight to the offseason. The airplane's this way.
Yeah, look, I too am trying to figure out. Unfortunately, it's not one thing. I was wishing it would be, it's only one major thing, but it's like there's a couple of major things. The most obvious and blatant glaring thing is we have to bring it, and there's different approaches, so I don't want to define it as one approach, but we have to bring in, depending on the approach, no matter what, there has to be a new quarterback added to our roster, no matter what approach we take. And if that's a big money guy, whether it's a game manager, compete with Zach guy, whether it's a middle of, in between the two, definitely going to start while Zach develops guy, but not all in, kind of like put everything in jeopardy guy. There's different strategies. That aside, with the quarterback, I was hoping it would be easy, but it's not. The health of the offensive line has obviously gotten to a point where it looks like we do have a need for another tackle. I don't think, we have the whole thing with Max Mitchell and blood clots, and they're not 100%, and Becton 2 years in a row. And, Fant is obviously gone. And, Dwayne Brown can't lift his arm over his head. I mean, we need to draft a tackle. But we also, I feel, have a giant hole at safety. I just feel like the safety position, even Whitehead's a disappointment. Forget about it. I wasn't even thinking Whitehead. I'm thinking free safety, priority, free safety. And then even strong safety is not really that strong for us because Whitehead was a major disappointment. So I don't know. Maybe we just have to roll with him another year, just like we have to roll with Lincoln. Maybe there are guys we just have to roll with. But it's disappointing that we have and then I didn't even name the other needs, like, a defensive tackle that can replace Shep, like a run-stopping defensive tackle. And then also, if we don't sign Corey Davis, we might not re-sign him because the clear up money.
He's still under contract, but they can cut him.
He's ours if we want him.
Right.
And then when everybody talks about cutting him to save the money, they have to answer the question, okay, but who's our WR2?
Exactly.
Because, you know what I mean? Because Elijah's clearly the slot. Garrett Wilson's our WR1, fine, but who's your number 2? Who's your guy on the other side?
And don't tell us Denzel Mims.
Yeah, well, Mims is a good.
I don't want to hear it.
I certainly, I'm happy with his step up this year, but he hasn't stepped up enough to say I'm comfortable with him being the WR2. So there's more issues than I wanted there to be. The worst one, of course, is Zach Wilson, like not working out and us needing a quarterback. Nothing is more damaging and has hurt the franchise more than that fact. So
it's most definitely true. And of course, you got to bring in a little competition for Braden Mann, and will Greg Zuerlein be back?
Yeah.
Can't even overlook those things anymore. But, as of right now, the Jets have 6 draft picks. We'll see what they have in terms of cap space. It's a little premature to look at what that's going to be. But this is more about maintaining what we have right now because Joe Douglas signed a lot of guys to 2- and 3-year contracts. And so but you have some outs after this year. You're going to start to see those contracts come to pass next year. So, like you said, a lot of it is keeping certain players like Laken Tomlinson. I'm sorry, for what it would cost to get rid of him, it's just not a move that's worth it, in my mind. Now, you mentioned needing a tackle. I think one of the biggest questions that has to be answered is, where do you put Elijah Vera Tucker? I would be interested to see some of the stats when the certain guys break it down and look at, okay, this was his run win rate or pass block win rate at all the 4 different positions that he played, and figuring out, okay, what is the best position for Elijah Vera Tucker, because he is our Swiss Army knife. We know how that offensive line deteriorated once he was out. So you could put him at a number of places, but if it's comparable between tackle and guard, to me, you have to play him at tackle because it's less expensive and easier to find a guard than it is to find a tackle, one would think. I think another year of Max Mitchell development can be very beneficial. You can't count on Mekhi Becton, but you can plug him in as a potential player, but he has to earn his way back into the lineup. So if you have a situation where Dwayne Brown is still here for another year, you have AVT, you have Mitchell, and you have Becton, Mitchell, AVT, and Brown. That's 4 pretty good deal. That's a pretty good deal at tackle. Then at guard, if you have Tomlinson, maybe you bring back Nate Herbig. You could bring him back if all else fails, but then you go out and you upgrade at center. Something in my mind has to change on the interior offensive line because it absolutely failed the last month. And I did a whole video on this offense about people blaming Mike LaFleur first and foremost. When this was looking like a good offense for the first half of the season, it really was working. By any metric you want to talk about, points, yards, even the red zone percentage was looking good. But you lose Hall, you lose AVT. They were never able to recover from that. And, of course, the quarterback play went into the toilet. But to me, either center or right guard needs a notable upgrade next year from what we have right now. Either position, but it's not just tackle to me. I'm open to any position being upgraded on this offensive line.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I could see us taking a center, and a lot of the mock drafts I do. I take a center out of Minnesota in the second round. I definitely see us taking a tackle. They need to. I hope they look at the tape. I hope they make a decision on AVT. AVT needs a permanent home, and if look at the DVOA, like look at the play-by-play. Let them do their analysis and their film study, and if he's a top-notch tackle, then fine. But he has to be top-notch because he's literally probably easily going to be, or not easily, but arguably going to be the best. If he's a right guard, for example, the best in the NFL, like all pro, like the elite. I don't want him to if at tackle he's just going to be a good tackle. That's nice for versatility. It's nice for a pinch, but I don't want to purposely just say, "Oh, we're going to make you a good tackle. You're just going to be a right tackle. You're a good player."
Mm-hmm.
No, not if we have a chance to have an all-pro, best in the NFL guard. So they have to look at that. But if he's going to be an all-pro, like a Pro Bowl tackle, then hell yes, move him to tackle. Game over. Move him to tackle, draft another, let Becton try to win his job back. Let's have a problem. Let's have a surplus. And if we have a surplus, they might be able to make they might be able to do an AVT decision. Okay, we draft a tackle. We're going to go with AVT at tackle, or we'll go with Max Mitchell. If he doesn't work out, we got AVT. Or we got Becton. If either Mitchell or Becton work out, then we can keep AVT at guard. And then the backup plan could be if those guys don't work out, AVT could always be the right tackle. Right. Or the left tackle.
It could most definitely happen. I put it this way. The position I would want to see him play the least is probably left tackle. I don't feel as optimistic about that as I do left guard, right tackle. And Tomlinson, in my mind, has left guard secured. Never mind how he played. He's not going anywhere this offseason.
Right. The money has him locked in.
It just doesn't work. So to me, AVT will definitely be playing on the right side of the offensive line next year. The question is where, and that all comes down to who else they acquire during the offseason.
Okay. Let me quickly explain the headlamp that I'm wearing. So those of you might not know, Sacramento right now is experiencing it's a certain kind of storm called something cyclone. It's a cyclone. It's a special kind of storm where the pressure rises really fast. I don't know what the hell. It came from San Francisco and it's hitting Sacramento right now fairly hard. And it's going to get really bad as this show goes on. Now, every time we've had a windy, rainy, yes, mess. It's a bomb cyclone. That's what it's called, a bomb cyclone.
That's what the Midwest. Yep. That's what we had 2 weeks ago. Yep.
So we're experiencing a bomb cyclone that's just getting started. It's supposed to get really bad at 9 p.m. my time, which means I will be able to get this show in. But there's a chance I'm going to lose power during the show any moment now. One strong wind, because that's the problem with Sacramento. It's not a city that's built for storms, because for years and years and years, they don't get storms. And now all of a sudden, in the last decade, Sacramento's a city that gets storms. So there's a chance I'm going to lose power. So I'm not going to actually have to wear this the whole show, but I'm going to have it next to me because I'm upstairs in my house, right? I'm upstairs. And if we lose power, getting downstairs will be very dangerous, because this was an add-on upstairs, very steep staircase. I'm an old man now. I'm not a young spring chicken. I ain't doing it in the dark. So there's a chance I'm going to lose power. I'm just going to, this show just might end suddenly, or it probably won't because Adam is here. But I will disappear, and then I'm going to be stuck, and I'm going to need this headlamp to get the hell downstairs and get to safety. So unfortunately, it's not fun. I'm thinking my wife is a little upset that I'm up here, because if a tree falls on the house, this is the vulnerable part of the house, the upstairs, to get hurt. I am predicting, or don't think, I'm not that paranoid a person. I don't think a tree is going to fall on the house, but the odds of that are slim. There will be trees that fall, but I'm just saying, what's the odds? It's my house. And the tree outside my house is a palm tree, which is a pretty strong tree, very unlikely to get thrown down, because they typically exist on very windy islands that get hit by storms. So,
and for an extra $50, lay down and say, Jeremy will do your dental work as well.
For anybody saying chop that tree down, you're not allowed to. I live in California.
Who chops down palm trees?
You're not allowed to chop down.
Who's chopping down palm trees? That's wrong. You know how much the rest of the country would kill for palm trees right about now?
Yeah, this is not. It's not a. It's not a tree that's going to fall down. I mean, the trees that fall down are usually trees that are dead. They're older trees. They're dead trees, or they're in spots that had flooding and the roots are soggy. Like the ground got very wet and everything. It's not really a concern. The tree is not a concern because it's very well alive and very healthy, and very thick, like strong. It's more the trees that fall. I could look around. They're like these. I don't know. I don't want to make a fool out of myself. I don't know the names of trees, but you could tell that they are older trees, because when you look at the uprooted trees that are on the ground, the roots look all dried out. People say that the trees were dead or dying. So I'm not really worried about it. The way I'm staying safe, thanks for the concern out there. The way I'm staying safe is this headlamp, because I'm very serious about it. If I have to go downstairs, this is by my side, so I have a way to get around the house. Also, I'm not like these idiots. There are people out there driving around right now. I mean, people love to just test nature, because especially Californians that never experienced it, they think it's like this cool thing to check out, and they don't understand the danger of branches and other objects blowing in strong wind. Growing up in New York, I know the danger. Like I know you can die by being outside in dangerous conditions. So the way I'm being safe is we're not leaving the house. We have tons of headlamps, candles, tons of fruit and vegetables, and a full tank of gas in my car. But really, the way to be safe is we know to stay inside.
Mm.
So
Even if it's right near the potentially deadly palm tree. Good.
I think our tree is the safest one on the block. I'd worry more about my neighbors. Like I said, my tree is like of all the trees. It's
They got
probably
the old trees. Yeah. Oh boy.
I gotta get John Nolte just to ignore J. Cole. Just ignore him. Don't fight with him. Just ignore him.
Wait, doesn't John Nolte? Where does he live? Utah, Idaho. Where's it? Where's he live again?
What?
Where does John Nolte live again? Remind me.
John Nolte is in Florida somewhere.
He is in Florida. Okay, so for a second I was like, wait a second. I thought he lived in the mountains and he has palm trees on his property. Okay, Florida. I buy that one. All right. Oh, good. All right, Florida.
So I see a lot of people talking about quarterbacks. Yeah, we're gonna talk. We'll break that down. There's gonna be a long offseason of breaking down quarterbacks. There's gonna be a really long offseason of it. But I do want to say, and I see everybody who's here that I didn't welcome. I see you guys in the chat. Thank you, Microfox, James Thompson, all you guys. Thanks for being here and everything. I'm not ignoring you. Knobcraft, thanks for the well wishes and being safe. I promise I will. Rico the pup, thanks for being here. I see all you guys, and I'll do the best I can to get the chats. Harlan Abraham, what's going on?
Billy, hey.
Trin the Great, tons of people here. I appreciate everybody that's here. And we have somebody else that's here, literally here. Who, again, if I lose power, I want this person in here to keep the show going. So I appreciate him being backstage, ready to come join us. Guys, I want to welcome one of the greats, the Buffalo Jet fan.
What's going on? It's been too long.
What's going on, man? It's good to have you.
Good to see you, brother.
Yeah. How are we feeling?
We're feeling okay. I was just explaining to everybody why. I don't know if you saw. I was explaining to everybody why I have this with me. We have you being from Buffalo probably know exactly what this is and what the purpose of it is.
Yeah.
We're having a pretty.
That's if your lights go out, man.
Pretty nasty storm. Pretty nasty storm right now. We're having a bomb cyclone or cyclone bomb. It's called.
Oh, I thought that's what happens the morning after you do your hot sauce challenges.
It's so funny because so many of the hot sauces are have that in the name.
I'm starting to imagine like Gunny and Nick Shine wearing those lights around their foreheads, and I cannot visualize this.
Everybody's saying hello.
What's up, Mark?
So nice of them. Look at all these people saying
What's
hello.
up, Chode?
Look at all these great people saying hello. So you love our community. It's like so nice.
These people are animals, man. People don't stop. Because I see them in like all the other streams too. I'm like, damn. Love it. Love the Jets.
Guys, we have to get lives.
I know.
And we got John Post from Pure Journalism Sports. What's up, my friend?
Hey, Posty.
Congratulations. I want to congratulate John. He worked so hard for this, so I really want to point this out. He worked his tail off. He did this in a very hard space. Doing this in the fantasy football space is not easy. There's a billion competitors. It's really difficult to do it. He and his partner hit 1,000 subscribers for his Pure Adrenaline Sports fantasy, YouTube fantasy sports football channel or whatever you want to say. So congratulations, John. We're proud of you. And I'm honored to have been on the show and to be, have a small part in it.
Cool. Nice, man. That's awesome.
So me and my brother were having a conversation today. I want to get right to the juice, right? About quarterback. And he's down on Derek Carr, and here's why. So he's concerned about Derek Carr. He doesn't think he's horrible. He's not one of these guys saying he's trash. His concern with Derek Carr is, and I told him you got to check the stats and the data from other years, not just this year. This was a horrible year. His concern is that it would mean multi-year deal, a lot of money, and it would change the flexibility to continue building this team. And if it's a miss, we're going to be stuck with him. And it contradicts what they're saying about Zach developing. Because if you sign him, it's going to be a multi-year deal. And that's the end of Zach Wilson. Right. So he's concerned about that. He is, and we were talking about, wouldn't it be better to get a stopgap and let Zach try? Give him that real opportunity and maybe get, my brother's arguing that statistically there's not that much of a difference, but he's looking at DVOA to get a better understanding because sometimes the data lies, but they actually have more in-depth data. He's trying to figure out, This year, if you look at the numbers, there's a lot of things suggesting that Jacoby Brissett is not that far off of a Derek Carr, and we'll get Dom C in here to talk about potential cost of Jacoby. It might be an argument that the money you save bringing in Jacoby with Jacoby is better than the option of the money for Derek Carr. Like, we'd rather have $20 million more of spending and Jacoby Brissett or a guy like that, whoever it is, than Derek Carr at 30-something million. So that's my brother's perspective. I'm wondering what you think of that.
I don't think it's crazy. I'm for the Jets bringing in an established dude like a Derek Carr, but do I have all those fears that he could look, like how he's looked a lot of this year, which is not very good? And then we're sitting there talking, oh my God, we have this albatross of a contract for a guy. Like, yeah, that is a fear too. That's kind of a fear when you're taking another team's leftovers, regardless of the situation. And I have had that thought of like, okay, if you do a Brissett or a Minshew, could they give you 85% of Derek Carr's production for 25% of his salary? And you don't have to marry him. You can do it on a 1-year deal. And then there is still that slight percent chance that Zach Wilson develops. Because it's tough, man. If you get bringing Derek Carr for $35 million, then Zach is paying, Zach is $10 million. Then some people say, oh, you still need to have Mike White for a backup. And we're like, dude, we're paying like Mahomes money for freaking quarterback, and we're getting Derek Carr out of it. So there's no perfect solution with the way that it went with our quarterback room this year. In terms of Jacoby Brissett, I don't know. I'll trust your brother. It sounds like he's done his research, but I'd be fine if we got Derek Carr. I do believe that there are probably guys who could get you close to his production this past year for cheaper. But if you look at some of his, the totality of his career, he's been a lot better than the Brissetts and the Minshews. And if we're getting 2019 through 2021 Carr, he is significantly better. You're talking about a guy in that 3-year stretch I'm looking now was like 69% completions. He was like a 2.5 to 1 touchdown interception ratio. So it really just depends if Joe Douglas is looking at Derek Carr this year, and to his eye, did Derek Carr regress? Was it just bad coaching? Because his completion percentage dropped like 9 points. It's pretty staggering of a drop off. He led the league in picks, even though he's not even going to play the last 2 games. So I don't know, man. I don't think your brother's crazy, but it really just depends on, was the Derek Carr that we saw last year, is that a sign of things to come, or was it an aberration?
Right. I definitely think losing Darren Waller was one of the biggest reasons why his numbers went down the way that they did, because that was the security blanket. And then you're getting used to Devontae Adams and trying to build up some type of chemistry with him. And remember, the Raiders blew a lot of leads late. So they were scoring points, but I think a whole lot of that was on the defense. And let's be honest, who is his head coach? Josh McDaniels, who is not exactly well-versed for his ability to – he will not be in anybody's Coaches of the Year nominees.
And remember, everybody, I just want to point, like Buffalo said, and elaborate on this. It's like my brother's not comparing Derek Carr to Jacoby Brissett and saying that Jacoby Brissett is as good as Derek Carr. He's saying, just like Buffalo is saying, it's the combination of what's best for the team, meaning, okay, he's better, but Jacoby you don't have to get married to him for a long-term thing. You don't have to pay him as much. So there's these other – if you can get enough out of them for this team, like Breece Hall comes back, the offensive line, good running game. If you can get enough out of them, because Derek Carr is such
dollar for dollar,
right? Yeah. So it's a dollar for dollar kind of thing. Dom C, you've been here for a while.
Hi, boys.
Unannounced.
Hi, Dom.
Unannounced. Dom C, let him say something.
Look at the new setup, man.
Every week, Dom's got a new look, whether it's him or his set.
I think Dom just DMs me to sell me some crypto or something.
I've been working on my new studio for probably too many months, and
it looks good, man.
Over the holiday break, I got it all taken care of. We had everything up, and my little Wesley Walker behind me signed. My Ruckert, if he ever plays, it'll do something. But sorry, I lost train of thought now that you guys, my head got a little big as you were hyping up my new studio. So, Derek Carr, Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, man. It's hard for me not to trust me. I have tried and I have thrown and wrapped my head around it and like played with numbers and so on and so forth. And you guys right here, the three of you know that I sent you that spreadsheet today, of the quarterbacks, and here, these guys are locks and these guys don't need, and I can't feasibly wrap my head around a better solution right here, right now than Derek Carr. Now, can Jacoby Brissett be the serviceable quarterback that we would have needed to bring us to 10 games this year? Yes, probably. I would assume so. Do I have faith that Jacoby Brissett? Do I have more faith or the same amount of faith in Jacoby Brissett as I would at Derek Carr? No. And on top of the whole Derek Carr thing, I don't know if you guys heard this or not. And I'm not one who buys hard into conspiracy theories, so I don't say this as like, oh, you got to believe it. But supposedly there was a rumor was that what's his face, McDaniel was calling plays differently, setting up Derek Carr to fail as a directive from whomever, Davis or Mark Davis or whomever at the Raiders brass, so that they could get out of this contract.
Well, it worked.
Yeah, right. Right.
Yeah, I would err towards incompetence rather than conspiracy, but anyway.
Yeah, just real quick for FM who mentioned Tyler Huntley. Remember, Tyler Huntley is a restricted free agent, not unrestricted. So I like him very much as a backup quarterback, but I'm not exactly giving up anything more than money to get Tyler Huntley on this team.
Yeah. So I played this. I played the free agent quarterback carousel game on Twitter today. To anyone who followed me, you probably saw, and the names that kept coming up. Obviously, the rules of the game were all these big names were gone. Carr was elsewhere. Jimmy G was elsewhere. Rodgers didn't get traded. Danny Dimes and Lamar got franchised, so they're off the board. What's next? And very few Jacoby Brissett's, a lot of Baker Mayfields, a lot of Sam Darnold's, which I think people are. I think people are in la la land with that. It's no disrespect to the player, but he's not coming back here. Can you imagine the PR firestorm that Joe Douglas and everyone would have to handle if they're saying they're bringing Sam back? Why didn't you just keep him? Blah 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 blah. So I don't know what the answer is, but everything that I spin keeps coming back to God. I hope Derek Carr gets cut or gets released or
nothing would make me feel more confident, just as the best chance to deep playoff run, Super Bowl in the next few years. Even with all those other things aside, my impulse is you just feel like you have a better chance if you have Derek Carr quarterback, right? Yeah. Because you feel like the other guys are just too mid. They're Jags. And Derek Carr, there's this potential of he's thrown over 4,000 yards for several years. He had this horrible year. Great call, Adam. He didn't have his tight ends. He also had a crappy coach who did the same thing in Denver. He crushed that team as well. He's proven to be a failure coach. So to me, I agree with that piece. But I do recognize the risk of it. And Zach is gone. He's done. If they get Derek Carr, there's no Zach Wilson. Because by the time Derek Carr's contract would be over, Zach is playing somewhere else. So it means that everything they're saying about we're not giving up on Zach is baloney. That's baloney.
Listen, I think I think that's kind of the stance that they have to take.
Yeah.
Robert Saleh's not going to stand in front of the media and say, "Oh yeah, you know what? We really whiffed on that one, guys. Sorry." No, they're gonna, they're going to, coach speak out of every orifice possible. Zach's our guy. We believe in him, so on and so forth. And maybe there's some truth to that. Maybe there is. But he's going to say Zach's our guy and we believe in him through hell or high water. We're going to groom him until they're paying, $30 million.
What's he supposed to say? Zach
exactly.
sucks.
Yeah, exactly. Really missed on that one.
Because if we don't if we don't get anybody, then it might be that's the case. We get some Jag who's going to compete with him for the job. Like we get a Jacoby Brissett, he competes from the, and like that's what it might be. So you're right. You can't throw him completely under the bus.
I think there's tiers. I think there's
Yeah.
the top tier, which are the hope, the hopeful wishful tier of Lamar Jackson, or it's somehow figuring out a year or two, figuring out the salary cap ramifications for Aaron Rodgers. I don't think they're feasible, to be honest with you, Lamar and Aaron. And then you get that other tier, and I think Derek Carr falls in that tier. Maybe
Jimmy G is in that tier also.
Yeah. And then after that, it's you're really throwing darts. Like
shake them up.
Yeah. I've thrown out the name. I know a lot of people despise it, but I don't think it would be a bad bridge, reasonably priced, is Jameis Winston. He's when you look at the statistics, he's thrown a lot of interceptions, but he does a lot of the things that I think would fit our scheme very well. He's got a strong arm. He can make all the throws on the field. He's decisive. He's got pocket presence. Do I think he's the next coming of Joe Montana? I don't, but I at $10 million, I'd rather have Jimmy G than I'd rather have Jameis Winston than Taylor Heineke. I'd rather have,
and that's a 1-year deal.
Yeah,
I was going to say, would it take a trade? Like, is Winston still under contract? Because I don't see
Winston is under contract. But they're going into his void years of his contract, so their out is this year. They can get out of it relatively scot-free, and the way that they kick money down the road, it's going to be a non.
New Orleans is going to be cap hell until the Mets finally pay off the Bobby Bonilla contract. They just ain't getting out of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's just their business model. They play for now and worry about later, and they just keep pushing it down the road with these outs, so they can get out of his contract, relatively scot-free without a lot of dead money. So he's more than assured to be gone. So, at $10 million for 1 year of Jameis Winston, or 2 years at $18 million, something like that, I'd take that over Jacoby Brissett, because the
game,
money is going to be about the same, and I just think you have a little bit higher of a ceiling.
Yeah, 17 games of Jameis Winston would put Green Bean into an early grave. I'll tell you that much. The roller coaster ride that would be.
and listen, he doesn't come. None of these guys. And that's the thing, and this is the sad part that we have to. Our sad reality is that they all come with faults. Right. It just pick your poison. Which one is the least faulty? Jameis has been battling injuries. He broke bones in his back this year. He had that Liz Frank injury 2 years ago when he was having a really, he got off to a really good start in 2021. I think he had.
Can they hit an open receiver 15 to 20 yards down the field? That's all I'm asking right now.
Yeah.
Is that asking too much?
I'll take a swing pass to a 5-yard swing pass to the outside at this point.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with like Carr too. It's like, oh, if we sign Carr and it's like, man, he's not quite worth it, and we have him for 4 years, it's like that's still gonna be so much better than the quarterback play we've had, since however long. Like that's still a floor of somewhat respectability and like professional adult quarterbacking at the position. I really do, and I think
there's no argument. There's no argument on that fact.
I think that Derek Carr is probably the only reasonable option outside of the Lamars. Is the only reasonable option that you can make an argument that it's not a 1 year or 2 year Band-Aid. You know what I mean? Derek Carr could turn out to be here, for 3-4 years and be, feasible, be adequate, more than adequate.
Look, it's possible if Breece Hall comes back and does what I think he was projecting to do, and be that so super special. That's a big factor in making a Derek Carr possibly a Super Bowl quarterback. First of all, he put up huge numbers. I mean, and he never had a defense with the Raiders. He never had the defense.
Not even top 20.
Then when you combine
top 20,
right. Then when you combine like a Breece Hall, that's like a game-changing, franchise-altering type player. I mean, this is not just a regular running back. He was like starting to score a home run touchdown every single. It felt like every game he was breaking a 50-yard touchdown somehow. I mean, if you put that kind of guy with Derek Carr and he's got Garrett Wilson, so and yeah, you were going to replenish the offensive line, like suddenly, and with our defense, obviously our defense, if it maintains anything of what it's becoming, I mean, suddenly maybe that around Derek Carr is going to work and win Super Bowls.
And isn't it interesting to me, especially up until that time, it seems like the defense was getting most of the criticism, and you had all the Fire Ulbrich. You had the Fire Ulbrich crowd loud and strong. Pretty much once that changed and the defense started to get their stuff together for the most part, and the offense struggled, I'm wondering if all the same Fire Ulbrich people suddenly became Fire LaFleur people, and they're still on the Fire LaFleur train right now. But you know what? Good players make the coordinator look good. And I'm gonna keep saying it. This offense was on its way to being a very good offense. They were top 10 in red zone percentage. It's not something we talk about, but that's the truth. 10 games into the season. Okay. And then the Minnesota game happens. The quarterback play starts to go down. The line can't block anymore. And all of that reflected on Mike LaFleur. If you put a quarterback in here who can hit those passes that need to happen, you put the best offensive lineman on the team back, who's one of the best in the league, and you put their best weapon back on the league. You know what? This offense has the chance to really hum. It really, really does.
Yeah.
One thing
So
I want to
before
say
we fire LaFleur, I need a quarterback.
Daniel Jones, just a quick thing on Daniel Jones. Tell me if I'm wrong about this. The Giants have every ability to franchise tag him if they can't work out.
They do.
Him or Barkley. Yeah,
they're not.
Barkley.
The Giants are in a very, very positive financial position, similar to what we were in last year, where they have. I think going into right now, without taking in contracts that are expiring and everything like that, they're sitting somewhere between $70 and $80 million under the cap for next year.
There's no way they're letting Daniel Jones walk.
Listen.
They wouldn't draft him.
I would be highly, highly, very, very surprised if they did. And that doesn't mean that they think he's the franchise quarterback, but they could easily franchise him and give him another year. And I think personally, I think Daniel Jones has earned the opportunity to have one more year, at worst, one more year of review by the Giants, given some weapons. Because he's done what he's done this year. He's kind of led a team that no one thought was going to do anything to the playoffs with, Jeremy and Adam at X receiver and slot receiver.
I am pretty good in the slot. I mean, give me some credit. I can run a little bit.
Yeah. So if nothing more, I think they're going to buy, they're probably kicking themselves for not taking his 5th-year option because it'll be cheaper than the franchise tag. But I expect with everything I got that Daniel Jones is going to be the Giants quarterback next year, at least next year.
Agreed.
If not longer. Maybe they give him 3 years for $60 million and they still draft, his replacement, or they franchise tag him and draft his replacement in the 1st or 2nd round. That's an option. Speaking of the draft, where do you guys sit on if none of this works out, drafting another 1st-round quarterback?
Are you talking about this year?
I'm talking about this year.
Okay.
I'd rather take I'd rather just maybe possibly, depending on what we do, I wouldn't mind like a 5th rounds, like a Brock Purdy type swing, a swing at a guy like a swing. 5th round, you take a guy.
Weird how you said Brock Purdy and not James Morgan.
Well, yeah.
I had to go to therapy to forget James Morgan. Thanks, Buffalo.
Like I'll never complain about a late round swing for the fences. Like maybe we get some guy. But like if we sign a Derek Carr, I don't know if we need to waste a draft pick doing that because it'll be 3-4 years, so it doesn't make sense. Well,
listen, truth be told, I think where we fall in the 1st round, just say for shits and giggles, it's 15 overall. The chances of getting one of the top 3 are slim to none at that point. So anyone that you take at 15, Anthony Richardson, which I think is a really, really big project. I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't think that would be the case, but somebody, if by chance one of those guys were to fall, just say for argument's sake that CJ Stroud slipped for some reason. You guys take CJ Stroud? You take a rookie quarterback and run that back?
Man,
That's
mean,
very difficult with this
with
team.
Robert Saleh and JD.
So
I mean, like, there's a chance. I mean, I don't know what Woody.
I don't think there's a chance. I think the chance is very, very, very minute that they're even thinking about rookie quarterback that early. But for argument's sake,
no, like what Wilson is saying. I mean, this is a real question. I mean, things
you have to consider it. If they have a highly graded quarterback available and they strike out in free, like I think that if they completely whiff on the Derek Carrs and the Jimmy and everything, and then they sign a Brissett and the guy falls there, and it's like we really like this guy, and they're not going to take one just to take one. I don't think they're going to trade up for one. But if the guy that they who is one of their top 3 guys falls there, I think you'd have to consider it. Damn, it's just the growing pains of another rookie on a team that's kind of ready to win now, and I just want to make the damn playoffs. But eventually, to get like the dude to compete with Josh Allen, that free agents are not they're not getting him in the free agency. Eventually, to get that dude, the Joe Burrow, the Mahomes, the Trevor Lawrence, that guy's coming in the draft. And you never know what year it's going to be, and if it happens to be this year, and you take him, and then if he sucks, I never said any of this. I don't know what you're talking about.
Perfect. I just want a quarterback who can be top 10, top 15 right now, because I think we have a good enough defense. When you have that good a defense and that good of a running game, you can live with a passing game being not elite, top 5 in the NFL. That's one reason why I think Carr is a good fit for the Jets, because he is a ready-to-win quarterback. Doesn't have a ton of playoff experience. He's only played 1 game, but he's been, I believe, top 3 MVP. He's been to 3 Pro Bowls in his career. He's proven he can up his game, and he is capable of playing on that level. And if you give him a supporting cast like that, the game, everything doesn't have to be built around him. He had Jacobs this year. I know it didn't look all that good. But you know what? Maybe in this offense, that might be the right fit for him. So to me, I'm still rolling with Carr as my first choice. I don't want to think about a draft. Not until the 4th, 5th round, like Jeremy said.
I think we could all agree. It's as we can think of all the negatives. There's negatives on Carr. There's negatives, but the ceiling is unquestionable. I mean, there's nobody more proven in the sense of they have literally thrown over 4,000 yards in a season 4 years in a row. I mean, there's nobody more proven to be able to be, I love the way Buffalo expresses it, an adult quarterback. And another thing we didn't even talk about with Carr is like, so someone says, "Oh, he never won a playoff game." Well, my counter to that is
he's been playing for the Jets. He's been playing for the West Coast Jets.
Right, he's been playing for the West Coast Jets.
One freaking playoff game. One.
But my counter to that also is he also, I believe, led the NFL in comebacks, 4th quarter comebacks. Yeah. So the guy knows how to play under pressure and come back when it matters in the 4th quarter. When it matters. We got all excited and thought Zach's going to be a success because he did it once against Pittsburgh. Guess what? Geno Smith did it a few times when he was a rookie. But Derek Carr led the NFL in that. So it's not like that's real. That's not garbage time yardage. That's not, that's the system. That's coming back in a tight game when the defense is doing everything they can to sack him, to stop him from moving that team to coming from behind and winning that game. And he's done it more times than any other NFL quarterback. To me, that right away, that tells you he's real. He's real. If you put a top 5 defense and you bring back a healthy Breece Hall and fix that offensive line, we are real with Derek Carr.
Absolutely.
There's a caveat to that though, Jeremy. I don't think we're going to see a healthy Breece Hall for the first half of the year.
No, I get it. So maybe year 2 of Derek Carr. Maybe he gets us to the playoffs.
By the Super Bowl, Dom, he's going to be in great shape.
Fair enough.
He buys Robert Saleh and JD the extra year, right? We make the playoffs, let's say, because we have a real grown-up quarterback and a good defense. And then the next year, you get Breece Hall at full speed. Right. I mean, and I'm saying a lot of things that have to work out and a lot of things have to happen. But what are we supposed to do as fans? Like say the opposite?
Yeah. We have a tougher schedule. We may have a harder schedule. We had the 5th hardest schedule in the league this year, which we didn't think was going to be the case coming in. But right now we have the 5th hardest strength of schedule in the NFL. But next year, it's true. Next year, all of a sudden we're dealing with Philly, we're dealing with Kansas City, we're dealing with the LA Chargers of San Diego. We got some big boys on that schedule next year. So you know what? Give me fourth place. Give me the Texans as well to kind of balance it out. I'm good with losing on Sunday for that reason.
Yeah, I think with Derek Carr, like a lot of the pushback. Well, number one, like just for like just to put it in really simple terms, for me, for the longest time, when the Jets are like down 4 and they get the ball and there's like a minute and a half left, that game has been over for as long as I can remember. And if you have Derek Carr, that game is not over. And I think that like you have life. And even look, if Derek Carr signs a 4-year deal with the Jets, would I bet on us winning a Super Bowl? No. But would I be okay with, we were a 10-win team. We're still, quite not knocking on the doorstep of Buffalo. We're a 10-win team. We get into the playoffs. We win a playoff game or two, and we're respectable, and we're consistently competitive, and we have a 21st century passing offense. Like, I'll take that. And maybe that's a loser mentality, but I'll do 3 years of that. I'll do a sentence. Sign me up for like 10 wins and just being, the Minnesota Vikings or whatever, some team that, is probably not going to make the Super Bowl, but they're a perennial playoff contender. I'll take that for a few years, man. I really will.
The Houston Texans of the Andre Johnson, J.J. Watt era. I would take that at this point. 12 years is enough. 12 years.
So, see, here's an interesting question. Snowball is asking a very legitimate question. Why are the Raiders so keen? I threw in the keen on getting rid of Carr.
I just think
besides money.
Yeah, I think it's financial. They are bleeding cash. They have been net negative for eons now, and I think it's. I don't think this is a truly a McDaniels thing. I think this is more so, and Mark Davis or an upper management or whomever is really, really crunching numbers and trying to cook the books. I think this is strictly financial. They're bleeding money. They need to cut corners and figure it out somehow, some way.
They couldn't even afford to fire their coach. Do you see that report? Like
yes.
Yeah, man.
So they've been net negative for a long ass time.
Yeah,
and go ahead.
Though I think sometimes things just run its course. Like Jimmy G makes it to a Super Bowl, and they move off of him. Matt Stafford, he was the only thing that kept the Detroit Lions relevant for a long time. Jared Goff goes to a Super Bowl, they get rid of him. I think that not everything is Russell Wilson, where a guy is going to leave and just be horrible. Sometimes things just kind of run their course. I don't know.
And I guarantee you this: if Derek Carr does go to the Jets, where the Jets are going next year, Vegas, baby. That game's going to be on a Sunday night or a Monday night. No doubt about it.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
For sure. So I got something pulled up here. I'm just going to read some names off. I'm on Sport Track. Here are the unrestricted free agent quarterback names. Tell me if there's anything that wets your whistle. And I'll start, obviously, with Lamar Jackson and Daniel Jones, who are both likely to be franchised, so I'm taking them right off the list.
Right.
Tom Brady. Yeah. Baker Mayfield. Sam Darnold. Jimmy Garoppolo, which we all seem to be, kind of okay with.
Good with it.
Jacoby Brissett. Geno Smith, who will more than likely re-sign. Andy Dalton.
Oh my God.
No.
Andy, so
no.
Here's a funny and Tyler Heineke, Mason Rudolph.
Oh geez.
C.J. Beathard.
I was waiting for you to get to
Kyle Allen.
When are you getting to Blaine Gabbert, Dom?
Blaine Gabbert. Drew Lock. Nick Mullins.
Josh Rosen.
Josh Johnson. The pickings are thin. But here, the funniest thing about this, Andy Dalton, he surprised me this year. I'm not going to say he's the be all end all. What do you think the market value for Andy Dalton is next year? What do you think the projection of what he's going to earn is?
$1 million?
I'd say $5
million.
8.
Yeah, 5 or 6.
Market value projection 2 years, $14 million. $7 million a year for a 36-year-old Andy Dalton.
I knew Brissett was about 5'5", 5'6". I knew that was his projected number. So yeah, Dalton more than that.
Brissett, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, they're all in that $5 to $6 million range. Andy Dalton's a step above that. Taylor Heineke, $10.2 million over 3 years. And again, these are just projections. These are just their estimates, but
I like Heineke. I gotta say, I like Heineke. I just don't think I like him for the Jets. Put it that way.
Yeah. It just seems like another guy that he'll play well sometimes, but he's not going to be week to week.
Not for a team that's ready to win right now. That's ready to make a playoff run. He's not a fit for the Jets in my mind.
Right. You're not going to go. I mean, let's think about this realistically, right? To be where we want to be within the next couple of years, we have to be able to beat Kansas City, Pat Mahomes. We have to be able to beat in our own division Josh Allen. We have to be able to beat real teams, serious teams. I mean,
Justin Herbert will have the Chargers next year too.
Jalen Hurts.
I mean, like the reality is
Tua when he's not concussed.
Derek Carr is the only guy you could say with, in all honesty, with a straight face, that really makes you believe at all. Because with the Raiders, it wasn't like in the past few years you didn't believe the Raiders can go in and beat Kansas City, and they did sometimes in that rivalry. Like, you need to have a real quarterback. Like, when you play in those kinds of games, and I'm not talking about the one-off we upset Buffalo once. I'm talking about the realistic because New England beat Buffalo last year too in the regular season, and look what happened in the playoffs. Yeah. If you want to be very serious in the playoffs, you're not going to get that from a Jag quarterback. You're not going to get 3 to 4 games against 4 elite playoff caliber teams in a row to win a Super Bowl unless you have a real deal kind of guy. And whether you believe it's Derek Carr or not, there's no one out there that can challenge Derek Carr for that ceiling of being that guy.
We need that hired gun. This is a team that is ready to win. That's the phrase I used on Sunday when I recorded. The hired gun. You know, he may not be we may not know what he's going to be 5 years from now, but you know what? I'm willing to pay a lot of money for 3 years or so. I don't want to think about having to draft a quarterback at the top of the draft. I don't want to be in the middle of free agency for the quarterback and all of that. I need to reduce the list of unreliables on this team. And right now, the biggest one is quarterback, and it's the most important hole that we have. And for a team that, if you don't have the coach and you don't have the quarterback, you're not winning. You are capped. You cannot get above that glass ceiling if you don't have those two things. To me, with Robert Saleh, I'm a little shakier on him right now than I was 2 months ago because of how poorly this team played the last 2 weeks. Yeah, the last 2 weeks to me were abominable. They should have come out guns blazing against Seattle, and they didn't do it.
Looked like a preseason game, man. That was like a preseason energy. It was over immediately.
Yeah. Yep. What two plays in, you knew. You had to know. And if you had any doubt, when Mike White threw that embarrassing interception I'm not going to say to Denzel Mims, but in the direction of Denzel Mims and double coverage, because that's what it was. Yeah, at that point, it was just like, okay, how long is it? And the game just dragged. It felt like a 5 out. Like we'd been knocked out in the first round, and we were dragged around the ring for another 14 rounds. That's exactly. I figured Buffalo might appreciate the analogy. So,
yeah, man, that was tough to watch. It just felt like the rest of the game was a formality at some point, and man, it's a lot of questions around this team, but we'll see. I still think if we had any kind of quarterback, even with all the flaws of the coaching staff, if we had even if we had a Taylor Heineke, and we win 2 more games, and we make the playoffs, and even if we get blown out in round 1, we're still feeling way different about the coaching staff. So as pissed off as I am, I would like to see everybody get one more shot because, dude, you can't keep starting over every 2 years. And there's been enough improvement to give everybody 1 year back, but you got to make the playoffs next year. You got to figure it out. Bad teams make the playoffs. It's 44% of the freaking league gets in. It doesn't take a 5-year rebuild to become a playoff team. I'm absolutely fine with a playoff mandate on this coaching staff next year. Figure it out.
Well, the reality is he had us at a level that we haven't seen since 2015.
Right.
for a part of that season, and it was a strong enough run that it got us all the way to January 1st with a relevant game.
Yeah, listen,
I
there's
mean-
been progress. You know, I know how, and I'm as disappointed as anyone else how the season ended these past 5 weeks, especially. But we went from what, 2 wins to 4 wins to possibly 8 wins. So you can't.
So next year is 16.
There's a linear move going, and it's
Is
going
that
in the
counting
right direction.
preseason?
We're headed in the right direction. It's and maybe this is just my eternal optimism when it comes to the Jets, but like, and I've said this, to you guys privately and whatnot. Like, I can't. I'm not saying anybody else or anybody in the chat. I can't say that this season was an utter failure. It's hard not to pick out it's hard not to notice the positives. Was it disappointing? At 1,000% disappointing. But I can't say that the season was an utter failure.
Agreed.
That's just me.
I agree. I can't say it was a success either. I think there's too many positives to say it was a failure, namely the rookies and the transformation of the defense.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like the collapse and the lack of clarity around quarterback, you can't really call it a success either.
Yeah.
It's weird because what threw it off was like, we talked about it in the middle of the season. When you get to 7-4, the expectations change. So it's hard to have a collapse and then call it successful. If it would have worked out differently, and we would have been, at one point, like after the tough start, like we thought the start was going to be tough. So if we were after the bye at some point 4-7, and then got to the point where we finished 7-9 or 8, or
8-9,
7-10 or 8-9, like we'd be playing for success. From that perspective, we got beat up early. We couldn't, we knew we had that tough start to the schedule, but we came back. We beat the teams that we should beat. We started winning at the end. We pull up to 8 wins, and suddenly you could look at it like successful. But that's not how it happened. How it happened is we went to 7-4, and the team choked. The team choked because it wasn't like we had unsurmountable injuries. It wasn't like something so horrible happened. No, we choked. Because we didn't just lose to Detroit and Jacksonville. Look, it's the way we lost.
Got blown out.
We got blown out at Seattle. I mean, we weren't competitive even.
Yeah. The first 3 losses, they were competitive losses. Little things went wrong here and there. They just didn't find ways to win those games. I can live with those. But again, the way that they got, I just had the sickest feeling going into that Jacksonville. I think I was as down on that game going in as I was any game because of the way they lost that game to Detroit. I'm like, they're having a turnaround against a team that is streaking. This is the absolute worst timing for a Thursday night game. But I really believe that they would find a way to get some inner gumption, to find a little bit of, as one former wrestler would say, a little bit of testicular fortitude, and find a way to play hard against a team that I felt was very comparable to them, has a very similar story to them, had come in losing 5 of their last 6 games also, may I add. And this people talked about how personal a game it was for Pete Carroll and Geno Smith. Screw that. How is this not a personal game for Dwayne Brown, for George Fant, for DJ Reed, and all these other ex-Seahawks? It's an extra personal for them. I thought DJ Reed would ball out in this game.
He did.
He did. He had a good game, but I was thinking, man, I'm going to see he's going to get his second interception of the year because DJ hadn't had a pick since week 1.
Yeah, they didn't throw it to him.
Now, they had to throw it somewhere, but after that 60-yard Kenneth Walker,
they threw it to Tyler Mabry.
You knew where I was going. Tyler Mabry. Yeah,
listen, man. But look at what all the teams against us did, and again, trying to spin it, trying to really see the positive here. Look how good our cornerbacks were. I mean, every team knew don't throw to the outside. Don't even bother because Sauce and DJ Reed are going to shut you down. Well, and as a whole, the defense, like I said, I don't know exactly. Maybe somebody else does. I think the number's right around 17 points or something like that. If we score more than 17 points, right? That's 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals. If we score a touchdown quarter 1, a field goal quarter 2, a touchdown quarter 3, and a field goal quarter 4, that's 20 points. And if we get 20 points in I guarantee you we're in the playoffs right now. If we could score 20 points in our games,
We talked about that. Yeah, we talked about that. In the first 6 games the Jets played this year, they exceeded 20 points, over 20 points 4 times. In the 10 games since, they've gone past 20 points twice, and that was against Minnesota and Chicago.
Definitely impossible to argue that the Brees Hall and AVT injury didn't have some effect.
Right, because it was multiple quarterbacks.
Yeah. I mean, the impact of losing those 2 players. I mean, and I'm not going to sit there and say that's not an excuse. No, they lost their 2 best offensive players. It's somewhat of an excuse. But we should have figured it out and figured out how to put up some points. You know what I mean? Like, we needed to be able to put up some points. Like, it's not okay that we weren't able to put up any points at all, in those last games against those defenses. It's just that,
well, even our yardage our yardage far outpaced our points. That tells you, like, situationally we weren't good. Like, in the red zone we weren't good. We'd get down to the 35 and then have a penalty back us at a field goal range. Like, we still. It seems like such a class. We get down to the 33, and then there's George Fant or Corey Davis or Dwayne Brown like not lining up correctly, and then like it's 1st and 15, and you're like, okay, there's that. Bring out the freaking punt team.
Yeah. It's exactly right. A lot of people in the chat, I'm taking a look. A lot of people are talking about Baker Mayfield right now as somebody to consider a quarterback, and none of us said a word when his name was mentioned. But maybe we should go into this just
his ratings and his rankings. When you look inside the data, if you look real deep, now Dom likes to look at the eye test and look at film, which is great because I think we have to do both. But when you DVOA, when you look beyond the just the regular stats, he's not bad. That's all I'm going to say. He's not bad.
I'll be amazed to see what kind of contract he gets. If it's a 1-year prove-it deal, or if somebody is actually willing to give him multi-years. He may be the biggest wild card in this free agent class.
I wouldn't be surprised if he re-ups with the Rams. Who knows what Stafford holds? I mean, Stafford's going to be 36 years old. Dealing with what is he? Concussion, right? Is he out with
Stafford?
Yeah.
And he's got like tennis elbow or some crap.
No, Tyrod Taylor is done.
He stinks.
Did you see
I still can't get over years ago.
Tyrod
We made
Taylor?
Our old defense, made Tyrod Taylor look like crap before Baker Mayfield relieved him and came back to beat the Jets.
Yeah, I once saw Tyrod Taylor gain 80 yards in a playoff game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that was the end of that.
So
we got people coming into the chat that have never been in my chat before to say no to Baker. I just want to say that.
So Baker Mayfield is a big name in the chat. Another one that I see also, Braden Mann. And
he plays he can be our quarterback?
I don't care what you say. All of these troubles that we have here are a direct result to Braden Mann making a goddamn tackle.
And Frank Gore falling backwards to that first down to clinch it. My God.
If
so poetic.
If Braden Mann doesn't make that tackle and the Rams score the touchdown, we probably most definitely have the first pick. And we're sitting with pretty boy Trevor Lawrence, and we're probably not having this discussion because we're getting ready for a 5th seed in the playoffs. But I digress.
I didn't think it would hurt as much watching him play again. Like, I thought I'd be over it on Thursday night, but I was like, damn, this really sucks, man. This kid is good. This sucks.
I would like to give a swift kick in the jewels to Braden Mann if I ever saw him.
Some guy sent me a video from a Bill Parcells video. I think it was 97. I think it was the year before. A video of him yelling, and he's yelling at Keyshawn, but not yelling at him, but yelling with him, kind of like saying and explaining to him, we're not good. This team is walking around like they're good because they won a game or whatever. You're going to see we're going to get whooped in the next 5 or 6 games coming up. Watch, we're not good. These guys are going to learn the hard way. And it's kind of interesting because it was kind of like right before or after our bye. It was like Parcells could have said that on our sideline, or it could have been Saleh, and it came to life, but he predicted it for the 97 Jets. That he saw and recognized the holes. He recognized that you can't start walking and doing the walk as if you're good yet. You still have to be that hungry young team fighting for every yard, because the second you get comfortable and think you're good,
You
it's
get
gonna
humbled.
fall.
Yeah.
It's gonna fall really. It's gonna go. It's not gonna go well. It's not gonna go well. So,
Yeah.
So there's like so much, man. We could, this is gonna be like. I'm glad we have the whole offseason, because the quarterback thing is like I can't keep up with the chat. There's so many different guys. There's so many different opinions. You can't even keep up with it, right? I mean, it's like, and it's not going to be a divided fan base. There's going to be 10 camps. Like, you're going to have a Jimmy G camp. You're going to have the Derek Carr camp. You're going to have the Zach Wilson camp with Just Forever leading the way. Like, you're going to have all these different camps sticking with their guy. And it's,
I think the Mike White camp is retired now. I would imagine.
And Tony Alexio will be leading the Chris Trevor camp. We can't forget that.
Oh my god.
Dear Lord.
We need a vet. Well, Derek Carr's a vet. I mean, we have a Tom Brady. We had a Tom Brady camp. We have a Tom Brady camp. We do. There are people calling for Tom Brady. I don't know how, and Dom, you explained it. Now, based on how you explain the Aaron Rodgers situation, because it's hard to read from your text, because I was saying it can't happen because of the dead cap, and then you explain the exact dead cap if they trade him for the next 2 years and what it would be, which is obviously more digestible than 99 million. But what was your tone? Like, when you say, oh, it's going to be this hit this year, and then next year it's 24 million dead cap, are you saying that in the way they would consider that at all, or are they stuck?
So the only way that the Packers could get out and I don't know if you consider like 40 million over 2 years reasonable in dead cap, but the only way that they can get out of Rodgers' contract would come from a post June 1st trade. Okay, so at that point, if they trade him post June 1st, the team that would be trading for him would have a cap hit of $15 million, or just over $15 million year one, nice. and a cap hit of 40 and change year two. Okay, that's and the Packers would then have dead cap hit of that same $15 million year one, and whatever it is, 24 and change year two. It's like $40 million in dead cap hit over 2 years. Now, that would his contract is so convoluted, and there's so many kickers tied into it. So, by the third day or by the fifth day of the year, his money guarantees for the following year, and that's not an uncommon kind of little tool that happens in contracts. But the kickers for Aaron Rodgers are, you'd have to, if we took, just say, I don't think it's going to happen, but let's just play the game. All right, we trade for Aaron Rodgers before the season starts for 2020. So 2023, we would get him for if we accepted the clause in his contract, we could get him for $15 million next year, and we would have to guarantee the $40 million a year after. It works out to about $60 million after for 2 years. Okay, but then you have to make that same decision after 24 going into 25, and if you activate that clause in his contract, he then gets $58 million in 25, and then there's another one there's another one that's $52 million. So you don't have to take it, but then you're going to be on there's the guarantees that the signing bonus that he's received. You're now going to take in dead cap. So the Jets could take him in essence, for 2 years and $60 million, but then they're going to have to deal with 2 years of over $20 million in dead cap each year. Now,
JD will never do that.
No. The only out you would have is if he were to retire at some point. Just say you take him, you activate the clause to guarantee the 40 million plus in 2024, and he decides to retire after the 2023 season or the 2024 season. You can then take his dead cap and split that over 3 consecutive years. So you could take that $48 million in dead cap and split it over 3 years instead of having to take it into 2.
It still hurts, man.
It's
It's
no,
still
it's
16
still
million, you know?
it's an untradeable contract,
Right.
in my opinion.
I think they wrote that contract with knowing he's probably not playing more than 2 years.
Absolutely,
Poison pill.
you're
It's a poison pill.
1,000%. 1,000%. They wrote that contract saying, okay, if he plays in 2023, you know, we'll activate the clause, but we have to have a handshake agreement on the flip side that 2023 is going to be his last year. And he's
That was them making it right what they did. They were saying, here, this is evidence. This is what it took to patch things up. You're here to the end of your career, whenever you decide that is. That's what I think it was. Here's 3 years, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's you stay 1 more year, 2 more years, or the 3 years. Obviously, they're not going to pick up that 4 or 5 monstrosity unless somehow he's another Tom Brady who's still playing at an elite level.
Listen, I think when they signed him to that contract, there was an understanding between the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers' agents and whatnot that his plan was to retire short term, right?
Yeah.
They wanted to run it out, play short term, because there's no way that they're going to.
He's always stood by that he doesn't want to be playing until his mid-40s like Tom Brady. And that's the thing with Rodgers is like, you know, even if it could happen, if you're going to get 2 years out of him, I could see it. But he could go do on a heavy ayahuasca trip on the bye week and like retire. like you know, I don't know if you could really rely on him. I don't know how much he wants to play ball anymore, man. I don't know. I think he might want to just go host Jeopardy or something. Like it's a factor.
I don't know, the way the season was going, I could have seen that, but you know, with this late run the Packers are making, man, he may want another run after this. Snowball's asking a question: who's our competition for veteran quarterbacks? It's an interesting question with a lot of good rookies coming out.
So I'll say Washington is.
I think New Orleans is.
I'd say New Orleans is. I say the Raiders are.
Miami might be, depending on what's going on with Tua.
Miami might be.
That's a tricky one.
Do you
think the Patriots truly believe in Mac Jones?
No.
I think the Patriots, if not the Patriots, could definitely be in the mix.
The Colts, I guess.
Well, yeah, but I'm banking on the Colts. The Colts are going to be a top 5 pick. I'm banking that they'll probably draft. In New England, that's an interesting one, Adam, because New England, similar to the Giants, have a shit ton of cap space. So if they wanted to bring in a quarterback and still have Mac Jones, because remember, Mac Jones was the 15th pick or 16th pick to that draft. So his contract's not nearly as heavy as Zach's is, even though they came out the same year. You know, I think Zach costs us $9 million next year. Mac Jones is only 3 and change. So you could bring a quarterback in.
And they have quite a few draft assets. They can trade up if they want to go get a quarterback. If they want to do that, they could.
Yeah.
So they got a couple ways they could go.
Yeah.
I really don't think there's a ton of competition. There's some teams, but
Carolina.
Who's going to want to go there right now? In all fairness,
the Jets are one of the more desirable destinations, honestly, for teams that need a QB, in my opinion.
Yeah,
we got a number 1 receiver.
Define desirable.
Well, I think that most teams that need a QB aren't very good, and they have. I think that they have a number 1 wide receiver. They have a number 1 running back coming back shortly. There's a top 10 defense in place. There's at least I don't know if JD and Robert Saleh are good or great, but I think there's at least like a modicum of professionalism and respectability of the Jets brass for the first time in a long time. I don't know. And I think that we've always been able to attract free agents. We just have always had to overpay for them. So I think when you're looking at like all the teams you just named, to being besides Miami, like Washington, I mean Carolina, I don't know. I'd probably rather go to the Jets than some of those teams. But I'll let you guys take it the rest of the way. Jeremy knows I got to be tucked in bed long before this. This is why you don't see me on Wacky Wednesday.
We gotta get you while you can, because eventually we're not going to be able to get you at all. So you're going to be long asleep, or maybe
no, he won't be sleeping.
You're right. Maybe it'll be the opposite. Maybe we'll have you, but you'll just have your hands full.
Yeah, you're gonna see soon enough. You're gonna see come spring. You're gonna see Buffalo Jet fans streaming at 3 a.m. From 3 to 5 a.m.
Very
And the
quietly.
videos, yeah, we thought his videos were short before.
Buffalo, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you being on the show, man.
Oh, anytime. Take care, guys. We'll see you soon.
All right, brother. Take
See you,
care.
buddy. And Dom takes center stage, just like
Hey, how about it?
I do want to make mention. There was in the chat somebody not only got political, which we don't do here. Political, I usually give a warning or a timeout or something like that. But when you combine politics with the situation with this young safety from Buffalo, this young kid who's laying in a hospital or whatever, that's an automatic block from this channel. I don't want that here ever. So to combine a political theory or whatever with that situation is just unacceptable. And this is not the space for it. So I just want to make that really clear. So everybody, if anybody was offended by that in the chat, that's gone. And I dealt with that.
Judging by the screen name, I think we should have known what we were getting into, but that's another story.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it at that because I don't want to give him attention.
Yeah.
So man, there's a lot to think about this. So there's a lot of talk. So somebody had mentioned before DJ Chalk as a replacement for Corey Davis. How much would DJ Chalk cost, and does that make any sense?
DJ Chalk.
Well, I know he signed this year. He's on a 1-year deal, prove it deal, and it costs Detroit $10 million.
Right.
Now, the question is, did he prove it? You know, is he worth a long-term contract? I don't know. You know, I could see him getting something similar, $10 to $12 million in the market. You know, is he a replacement for Corey Davis? I think they're kind of different receivers. DJ Chark's more of a vertical presence, kind of, you know, stretch the field kind of guy, as opposed to Corey Davis, who's, you know, more of your true, you know, outside boundary X, you know, supposed to be reliable, sturdy hand receiver. So I don't think they're the same receiver. I don't know if one could replace the other. Personally, that's just my opinion.
I'm not very impressed by this wide receiver market as far as free agency goes. To me, if I'm replacing Corey Davis, and yes, I know it sounds appealing to cut him and try to save a little bit of money, but at the end of the day, who are you going to get that's better for the same amount of money? You know, I know we got to save some cash somewhere. To me, the only way I would think I would do it is if I'm drafting a plug-and-play wide receiver in the first or second round. I think that's about the only way I would do that, and I'm not sure I want to do that for the second straight year. Great as Garrett is, I don't know if I want to – if wide receivers should be the focus again. I would rather the focus be on offensive line, and I would think about defensive tackle with those first 2 picks before getting into maybe linebacker, safety, and so on.
Yeah, well, listen, the quarterback throws everything out of whack. You know what I mean? You got to remember, because if you're paying for if and I'm just going to use Carr because he's seems to be the name du jour, but you know you're going to have to create $30 million somewhere a year for Carr, right? And I'm saying that very, very liberally. It might be more, but just say you're going to that $30 million is going to have to come out somewhere. You can't pay everyone. You can't bring in the team that's constituted right now with Corey Davis on this cheap contract, what's lost in the way his deal's structured with JFM, with, you know, Dwayne Brown, this, that. It's all geared towards these guys being here on a focal point, you know, based around our rookie contract on Zach Wilson. Now, if we have to expedite that and you know, take the $9 million that we're paying Zach and now add another $30 million, you're going to lose. I don't know if it's Corey Davis, but for the sake of this argument, you know, you might have to lose Corey Davis. You're going to lose the opportunity to re-sign McGovern. You're going to lose the opportunity to bring back some of the key role players like Sheldon Rankins and Quincy Williams and Nate Herbig. You know, like those guys probably aren't going to be options if we spend $30 million on a quarterback, unless unless you restructure them. But I can't see I that hasn't been JD's MO. I just don't see them saying, okay, you know what, Corey, you know, we're gonna kind of give you another 3 years. We'll kick the money down the road, and you know, this year you're gonna count $5 million against the cap instead of 15. or 12, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I just don't see that. I just don't see that happening. Now, I know the argument for Corey Davis is at $12 million. That's still, a relatively very, very good price for somebody who can come in and play some snaps.
And a pricey wide receiver market.
Yeah. I mean,
Keeps going up.
Yeah, it keeps going up. So there's that argument, but at what point where else can you take money from?
That's the problem.
That's the problem.
Got to do it somewhere. I mean, I could see Berrios going. To me, he's as disappointing outside of Zach. Berrios disappointed me about as much as any Jet on this roster this year.
He's no longer at all. I mean, I like Berrios and like what he did a year ago, but so I take no pleasure. It's not personal, at all, and I take no pleasure in saying it. But he's not a necessity at all for the future of this team. There's nothing about him at this point after this season that's going to make you say, "Oh no, how could we possibly go on without Berrios?" I mean, it's just the truth. Every play he plays, when they do those gadget plays, could have been Elijah Moore. If you want to be honest, if we're going to be honest about it.
So here's the thing, though, guys, and again, you guys both know me and how I look. My mathematical brain works. I think Corey Davis is a much better wide receiver and much better for the Jets than Braxton Berrios. I'm not denying that. Okay.
Yeah.
But Corey Davis, if we were to move on from Corey Davis after this year, we gain $10.5 million in cap space with only a $666,000 dead cap hit. That's peanuts. Okay. If we were to move on from Braxton Berrios this year, we would gain $5 million in cap space, but take on a dead cap hit of $3.2 million.
Ugh, yuck.
Yeah.
Not worth it.
No. So it's just like I said, especially when you're playing a numbers game, it's just not, the money leans towards, let's get rid of Davis or letting him go or renegotiating, which I just don't think that's going to be. If we had a healthy Corey Davis for 17 games each of the past couple years, and he gave you the production that, he's done over 17 games, maybe you have that discussion. Maybe you can make a more valid argument, but we've seen Corey Davis for half of the season last year and half the season this year, maybe a little bit more than this year, a little bit more than half, but not much.
Yeah. So look, it's no, I get it. I mean, maybe they do a Jamison Crowder with him. Maybe he wants to finish his career with us. Maybe he's willing to take the cut. I don't know, but but replacing him is a thought because I'm not exactly, right now it's Mims. I mean, that's
and again, that's you got to remember, JD, in his true Baltimore roots, where he learned how to work in the front office. Baltimore has done one thing better than any team in this league, and that's really, really develop and build a pipeline of players. They let guys go. They got guys that are ready to step up and do it. Now, maybe when they gave Corey Davis his contract, they said, okay, we have this out after this year, and that's fine because at that point, Denzel Mims will be in his fourth year, ready to go, so on and so forth. Yeah. Unfortunately, that, he hasn't shown that he's ready to take that role over, and
not with confidence,
call it what you will. Call it a lack of trust from the coaching staff, a lack of, production when given the opportunity, whatever the case, call it, the issues that he had getting food poisoning and COVID, whatever it is, I just don't think that. I think that the wide receiver pipeline, that was the plan. The plan has altered. But now you're in this conundrum where, all right, well, we need to make money to bring in a quarterback. And that contract is just so pretty and tasty to get rid of relatively scot-free. But now you don't have that piece in the pipeline ready to go. So do you draft somebody? Sure, you can draft somebody. You can't guarantee that they're gonna. You can't guarantee that you're gonna hit on another Garrett Wilson.
Definitely not.
Especially, and like you said, Adam, there's other holes that I think need more attention.
There's more.
The defensive line and the offensive line are going to need players.
Yeah, we might just have to figure it out with if we don't renegotiate and we release Davis, we have to figure it out with Mims, and we have to hope that Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore steps up. And if Derek Carr comes in as the quarterback or a new quarterback comes in, we might find out that Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson are two dynamic wide receivers game to game, and Mims will make his big play here and there and do his blocking and the other things he does really well. I mean, that's just what it is. I mean, every team has to deal with this. You can't always say super strong as you want in every position.
May have to rediscover the greatness of Jeff Smith.
Maybe
who's a free agent?
Of course, because of course he is.
No one's coming after him.
Now that same kind of along that same argument that I just made with Corey Davis, and my feeling of Mims really being the pipeline guy that was there to replace him. Carl Lawson.
Exactly who I was going to bring up.
We can free up $15 million by moving off of Carl Lawson this year.
That's a no-brainer.
With only a $333,000 cap hit.
Amazing.
Dead cap hit. Now you can. I think you can argue that it would be easier for us, as constituted right now, to be rid of Carl Lawson than it would Corey Davis. Right?
Yep.
You got JJ, you got Michael Clemens. You hopefully re-sign Bryce Huff, and you still have JFM, who will be here next year. I know everyone thinks that that's another contract we're going to move off of. No, it's not.
No way. It's too expensive.
It's too expensive. It'll cost us more money for him to play somewhere else next year. Now, after next year, in 24, you can free up $13.5 million from moving off of John Franklin Myers and only have a $750,000 dead cap hit. So next year is the year you can be free of Franklin Myers if you wanted to, but not in 23. But so I think Carl Lawson, I'm not going to say it's a no-brainer, because Carl Lawson still is very, very good at what he does. He can pressure the quarterback as well as any other 4-3 defensive end in this league. I just don't think the Carl Lawson, that we've seen this year post Achilles tear is the Carl Lawson everyone expected. And like I said, I think it's just going to come down to a numbers game.
Yeah, Carl Lawson is a good, but in this case, replaceable player. I mean, I like him, I respect him, but I think that is the easiest cut to make. There actually is one other player that I don't think we're necessarily thinking about, but there's a big difference in the pre-June 1st cut versus the post-June 1st cut. It's CJ Mosley. Now, if they were to do the post cut, they would, the post-June 1st cut, they'd save $17 million, but they take on almost $4.5 million in dead cap money. Yeah. But you're still saving a lot of money with that cut. If
they do it post June 1st, they can then take that $4.5 million and spread it over
out for 4 years.
And he has, let's say, 1, 2, 3. They can spread it out over 3. So it's really only $1 million in change spread out over 3. So if they're going to move on from from CJ Mosley, I'm not saying that they are, but if they do, that's the way that it's going to happen. Same thing with Dwayne Brown. Dwayne Brown might retire. This might all be moot. But you can free up $10 million if you designate him a post June 1st cut and only have $1 million in change for the next 3 years, for the next 2 years.
Yeah, I think the CJ Mosley is especially if Sherwood, if they love him and he's developing really well in camp and everything, in the spring, you definitely could see it could happen. CJ can go, like it might happen.
Yeah, I would.
I don't expect it though. He's the leader.
I would bet against it. I would bet against it. I just think
he restructures. I think he restructures.
He's the guy that you
just did restructure.
Well, they did restructure him, but I think he's the guy that you have that Jamison Crowder talk with. Say, all right, CJ, you're 33. We want you here. We can't have you here at 21 million. So we're going to reduce that 21 million to 10 million. And we're going to let you, and you're going to ride out the next 2 years.
And he might want to finish his career there, and he might understand it. And he might say, "I get it." So you never know, unless somebody else comes knocking, or his agent says, "No effing way, we can get more somewhere else."
Yeah.
Paul says, "I want to just get to the chat a little bit." The question is, how and why did Zach self-destruct? If JG thinks it's a coaching problem, heads will roll. If the heads don't roll, then it's a Zach issue. What do you guys think? So I'm going to start just by saying, honestly, I would have loved to see what happened if the tragedy didn't happen. We'll always wonder what if with Knapp, if that didn't happen. But at the end of the day, if Zach doesn't turn this around, because I don't want to talk about it like it can't happen, because it's just as unlikely as it might be and how unlikely people might think it is. I don't think you can accurately sit there and anybody's qualified to say that it 100% can't happen, that it can't happen, that he might turn his career around. But the reality is, if he doesn't and he's a bust, I don't believe you could just sit there every single time and blame the organization or the coaches. Sometimes a quarterback is a bust because the quarterback is a bust. Sometimes it just doesn't click, and he just can't handle the speed of the NFL game. So I think that if Zach doesn't turn it around, it's on Zach.
I would put it on Zach first as well. Did Peyton Manning become great because Jim Mora was his first head coach? I don't think that was exactly the case.
Yeah.
So yeah, to me, that is why figuring out who the best quarterbacks are going to be when you're a scout or you're a GM, it's not a science. You just have to have a feel for it. It is the hardest thing to do in terms of evaluating football talent. If there was a formula, a whole lot of other people would be subscribing to it, and you wouldn't see the disappointments that you see, let alone the busts that you see. It's getting to the point now where if Zach became even Andy Dalton, that would be remarkable. If he became just an okay, just a decent starting quarterback who's not necessarily going to win you a game, but not going to lose you a game.
Yeah.
That's the point where I wish he could get to. But the thing is, when you see the raw tools that he does have, it frustrates you that much more. Because if you can't throw the ball or if you can't move in the pocket, that's one thing. That's not really your fault. But when you have mental issues grasping the game, grasping the speed, reading the defense, that is that much more frustrating because it feels like that's stuff that should be taught or that it could be taught. That's what's frustrating.
So here's my take on Zach. And this is, and I'm gonna preface by saying, I was hands down one of the biggest supporters of Zach Wilson when we drafted him, and I had the utmost confidence going into this year, and really hung on the pieces that made sense for me to hang on to last year, like the Corey Davis touchdown against Tennessee, and the good stuff. I just don't think Zach was really that good of a quarterback. And I think a lot of it has to do with 2020, the COVID year. Scouting was at a minimum. You watch Zach Wilson, ball out for BYU that year. That was his only really, really statistically good year in college. Now, again, they were playing a COVID schedule as well. So I'm not knocking BYU. It's not their fault that, they were playing a Pac-10 schedule as an independent. It wasn't their fault that they, the Pac-10 shut down and they took whatever games they can. So I think our scouts were limited. All scouts were limited on really what they could go to and see during that year. So I don't know if he got a true full assessment, just like everyone else. You saw on the pro day and you saw what he did in gym shorts, and it was wonderful. Those those rolling out, throwing across his body, 60 yards, so on and so forth. But that stuff, it didn't really tell you the true makeup of Zach Wilson, the quarterback. I just don't know if Zach Wilson has that true makeup of a quarterback. I hope that he does. I'm going to still root for him. But the proof has shown he's got escapability and arm talent like I've never seen at the quarterback position, which is great. But all that goes for naught if he can't, successfully progress through a defense nobody's looking at, doesn't lack the wherewithal, the pocket presence, to get the ball out and throw it away when he needs to, all that stuff. I just don't know if I just don't know if it was if I question now if it was there at all. I don't know if it's something that can come. I'm hoping that it can, because he's on our roster. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on Zach. I just don't know if he was really ever that great of a quarterback.
And I have to say this as well. For one person in the chat who said we should just not draft quarterbacks, we're not capable of doing it. To me, that's just a lazy argument. I mean, this staff has developed one quarterback. This staff had nothing to do with Geno Smith, with Browning Nagel, with Christian Hackenberg, with anybody like that. Kansas City didn't have a great quarterback that they developed for years. So based off that logic, they never should have drafted Patrick Mahomes. So come on, let's do better than that, guys.
I think that in all fairness, we need to stop forgetting that when a regime changes, a regime changes. You have to look at the regime. You have to look at Joe Douglas, Saleh, Mike LaFleur, and this staff. And they've drafted one quarterback that they're accountable for. Every other quarterback that played better than we thought they would. Mike White, until last game, overall did more than we ever thought he would. That guy Johnson from last year, Josh Johnson. I mean, we've had guys come in and look very good with this staff. So I would say it's undecided. I would say it's not off to a great start with Zach Wilson. It's not exactly a, notch on your belt, but to sit there and define this staff as a staff that can't develop quarterbacks, it's just not fair, because they've only drafted one and we don't know. We might find out, in the future. It might be very clear that it was Zach Wilson. He was just the bust. It happens. Do you look back and blame the staff who didn't develop Jamarcus Russell, or the staff that didn't develop Ryan Leaf? I mean, sometimes Josh Rosen. I mean, sometimes guys are busts, and I don't know that 100% that Zach is, but it might be that's what it was. And you can't, if we kept drafting young guys, and this regime drafted them and they didn't do anything and they keep leaving, like if Zach leaves and goes somewhere else and they develop him and he becomes great, and then it happens again, you could start saying, hey, obviously these guys don't know how to develop a quarterback. I just don't think there's enough data.
Well, I think
not enough meat on it.
I think a lot of problems with quarterbacks and the ones that don't work out, and this seems to be it's not just at the quarterback position. It's a lot. I mean, how many guys are overdrafted due to their potential as opposed to the true product that they put out? Guys are overdrafted all the time based on potential, right? They do something good. They show, they have a good game at the right time, or a good practice at the right time, so on and so forth. And, they catch the eye of something, but, drafting somebody, and I'm not saying this is the case with Zach, but everyone talked about his sky high potential. If he gets it, he can be this, or he has the makings of this, but he has got the makings of it, but he's missing some of the components, right? You can make a cake, but without eggs and flour, you're gonna kind of be fucked, right?
What do you think of it? What do you think of Anthony Richardson?
I'm gonna tell you what I think of Anthony Richardson. All right, I've talked about him a lot with a lot of people I interact with on Twitter. I think Anthony Richardson, he's going to be one of those guys. He's probably a top 50 overall prospect, in all of college football, but he's going to be drafted in the first round based on what we just talked about. He's got, he's got some of those intangibles. He's got the potential if it all comes to play and all works out, to be very, very special. He's going to have. He's a guy that has. He's built like a brick shit house. 6'4", 225 pounds solid. He's built very similar to Cam Newton. He's got a game very similar to Cam Newton. He can run. He's very mobile. He can do things with his feet, a la Justin Fields and Cam Newton. Like I said, he's got a rocket of an arm. But he doesn't play the quarterback position. He hasn't played the quarterback position well yet. He's a guy that somebody's gonna take, and if they were smart, they're gonna take him and they're gonna let him sit for a year or two and really, really learn. And I think that's something that in this day and age that NFL teams don't do enough of. They're spending big time capital and big time money on these guys, and they come in and throw them in the fire, and they don't give them a chance to develop. Maybe that was part of the problem with Zach. 2 overall, no quarterback on the team. He was drafted to come in and start. He probably needed a year or two to really develop it. And again, with Napper being, Napper going, so on and so forth, that wouldn't have worked out very well. But Anthony Richardson has a career completion percentage just over 50%.
He'll fit right in here.
Anthony Richardson, and I happen to be a Florida fan, so I watch Anthony Richardson. I know him. I feel I know his game very intimately. Okay, Anthony Richardson. The offense is schemed for him right now to have one read. He has one read, and if it's not there, you take off. He takes too many sacks because he holds the ball. He tries to make something happen. Plays that hero ball. Wait. He doesn't. He can't read through progressions. As a matter of fact, Florida just cut that out. They give him one side of the field. He has one read, maybe 2 reads, and then that's it. But he'll make the play. He'll make those those plays that make you like your jaw drop. Where he scrambles around and he beats. He gets out of a tackle and he heaves the ball down effortlessly 50 yards and hits the guy in stride in the end zone. He'll do that every so often, but he's just not very accurate, and he doesn't have that. He has not developed as a quarterback right now. He's a great athlete. He's not a good quarterback. Now, same thing was said about Lamar. And Lamar worked out. So I'm not saying it can't work out, but the likelihood of Anthony Richardson coming in and being a team savior right off the bat, I would say is very, very low. He's a guy that you like. Like I said, I think the Giants are a perfect situation for Anthony Richardson. You bring Daniel Jones back on a short-term deal, whether it's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, something like that, and you just let Anthony Richardson sit and learn, and let Brian Daboll, who has a knack of he's proven that he can develop a quarterback. You let him kind of sit and mold, let Kafka and Brian Daboll mold him. But that's my take on Anthony Richardson. I wouldn't touch him for the Jets. He wouldn't even be on my draft board.
Such negativity.
Amazing.
I didn't like.
No, not you. The chat.
I did not. I'm going to say this right off the bat when I saw this name. I did not like Mariota this year. I thought on the Raiders, okay, he came in. Everybody blew it out of proportion. He came in for a few games or a couple of games for the Raiders a couple of years ago or something, or the year before last, and. All right, he did all right, and people got all crazy about him, and he's got to be a starter, so he gets his chance at Atlanta. I don't think he capitalized. I think Atlanta's a very good coach who needs a quarterback desperately.
And I don't know if Desmond Ritter is going to be that quarterback, but I definitely don't think it's Marcus Mariota.
Yeah,
the fact that offense has done what it's done with a bunch of no-name running backs, like 4 running backs, and Kyle Pitts doing nothing. Oh my gosh, they can't figure out how to get Kyle Pitts going.
Yeah,
it's just
amazing. Atlanta has benefited from a very positive schedule this year. They played the last place schedule, and their out of conference games were not too difficult. But Mariota's another perfect example. He was the 3rd overall pick, came in, was expected in Tennessee to be the guy, and he couldn't cut it, and he didn't cut it. So he then took a backup role for the Raiders for a few years and held the clipboard and, came in once in a while and used his athleticism very well. And somebody else gave him a shot, and, he failed. I don't think you can say that his season this year was anything even remotely exciting or successful. As a matter of fact, he quit on his team when they decided to make the move. He left the team
in a division, by the way, that was imminently winnable by any of those 4 teams.
Mm-hmm.
By the way,
yeah, I did not like if I heard the Jets were pursuing Mariota,
no,
I would not be happy.
I don't think any team is going to pursue Marcus Mariota for anything.
Yeah, he's fighting to just have a role on a team as a backup, right?
You can have an invite and see if you can get a shot. You can have an opportunity to be the backup. That's it.
Somebody was talking about what if we draft a quarterback, and not necessarily in the first round, get another quarterback like, let's say, Gary Minshew, Jimmy G, right? Let Zach, he's saying red shirt Zach or whatever. You have Zach, and he's saying re-sign Mike White, and he's saying and then draft a quarterback. And I just wanted to remind everybody, you can't have 4 quarterbacks as far in a way that you can protect them unless you keep them all on the 53. And I don't think you're going to have a football. The 53 is not enough men nowadays. It's not a big enough roster that you could afford to hold on to 4 quarterbacks. So it's just it's going to be 3. It's going to be 3. That's how many you could protect realistically. And it's going to be Zach. It's going to be Zach, maybe a veteran that we bring in, and then like some backup guy. It could be a late round draft pick. I mean, like it could be they draft a guy in the 5th round, or they just bring in a guy like Mariota, but as a QB3, right? And then they have Zach Wilson cooking and bubbling, and then they could have Mariota as competing with Zach for who's QB2 and who's QB3, and then you get your guy, whether it's Derek Carr or like that could happen. But we're not, we can't have 4 quarterbacks.
No, there's not going to be
not
4
a chance.
Now talking about the quarterback draft class, you can, we're not going to be in the market for Bryce Young, and frankly, for all the good that he's done in college. He's 5'10", 175 pounds. Him being super successful. And again, I'm not knocking the kid's talent, but him being super successful would be a true outlier. So I'm gonna just, we're not gonna be in the market for him. We're probably not gonna be in the market for CJ Stroud either. But we talk about guys in the later rounds. There is a guy who I really liked his film on the little bit that I was able to get and watch, and his name's Tanner McKee from Stanford. Big, tall, 6'4", big body. He's got the build. He can make all the throws. He's nimble. He's not, he's very, very fleet of foot, but he's not a running quarterback. You know what I mean? He's somebody that I think is going to be a mid-round quarterback that can, eventually make some noise. He's a guy I like, and I really, really like. I know I'm in the minority, but I really like Will Levis from Kentucky. He won't be there probably for us. He's probably going to be a top 5, top 10 pick, but I think that kid has a chance to be very, very special. He's got it.
I did see that there was, looking at a brief list of the quarterback prospects, that there's one from BYU coming out. Something tells me we're not going that route again.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to go that route again. Although the kid, the kid had a good season, and he's got the same exact build and the same exact kind of attributes as Zach, and I can't see us going that way again. That's not going to happen.
Billy, I'm all for changing the quarterback coach. That is one move that I would look to make. We know we're going to have, by the way, a new wide receiver coach. We know that's going to be part of it. Sign Baker Mayfield, have a competition in camp. So who we have? We'd have Baker, Mike White, and I wonder who who are we bringing? Is Baker a big veteran? I mean,
I think
I think about that. We're going to have Zach Wilson no matter what, unless we trade him. So, the money. Yeah. So, if we brought in Baker Mayfield, it'd be Baker Mayfield, Zach Wilson, and I don't know.
Fill in the blank. Yeah,
in the
Baker
mind.
versus Zach for the starting job. That is, the headlines would be all over the place. That would Samini, all those guys, they'd be in love with that.
I think that puts us in the same position as we were this year.
Yeah,
You know,
I don't
with
think I don't.
Zach and Mike White.
Excite me.
Yeah, and I don't think Baker is a fit for the team as far as culture.
I need some ceiling. Yeah, I need some instant upside. And while I respect that Baker is sort of maybe getting a little dose of humble pie, playing better with the Rams, I can respect that. I don't think that this is the fit that he needs. I don't think New York and Baker Mayfield are built for each other. I don't hate it, but put it this way: you could do worse than Baker Mayfield. This is not the fit that I'm looking at. To me, it's Derek Carr, it's Jimmy Garoppolo, and you know what? I am feeling the Jameis Winston thing a little bit more after tonight. I will say that.
Somebody just Jeremy, go back to that
This one right
big
here.
fella. Yeah, Hendon Hooker. Let's talk about Hendon Hooker.
I if he slipped to the third round, I'll say it again. I'm not saying it's possible. I know it might be the most ridiculous thing I'm saying. I'm just saying I know that if he was there in the third round, even if it was only a 1 in a million chance that could happen, I would do it.
So there's two big variables with Hendon Hooker that are going to impede his, him being a day one, possibly even a day 2 pick. Hendon Hooker is going to be 25 years old by the time the draft comes around in April. Wow. That's one.
Right.
And two, he's going to medically redshirt this whole year. So because he just tore his ACL.
Right.
So that means you're bringing in a rookie quarterback who won't see the field until he's 26 years old.
That's why third round. That's why third round.
Yeah, but I don't even think third round. I mean, listen, he's talented. There's no denying that, but age matters, man. Age matters. You get out of his. By the time he reaches his second contract, he's going to be in his 30s. He's going to be in his 30s. That's just not going to happen. Which is why. Go ahead.
Now I was saying he makes Sione Puha look young by comparison.
Yeah, which is why I was so shocked when the Jets drafted Michael Clemens this year, because he's in the same boat. But the only thing I can think about, the only way I can wrap my head around that is that they planned on Michael Clemens for 4 years, and then he'll be 29 and sail off into the sunset and let somebody else get that nasty freak.
Jets 44. I think the only way you can get Frank Reich and not be the offensive coordinator is if they literally named him quarterback and assistant head coach. That's the only way I could see it happening. I mean, without firing Mike LaFleur, because I don't see him he's not going to go from head coach to, I'm quarterback coach working for Mike LaFleur. Right. No way. He would have
that assistant head coach title is something that might work. And it's funny you say that, because I was talking with somebody else earlier today when the news came out. I don't know if you guys saw it, kind of somebody who's heavy in the Miami Dolphins beat, had said, and I don't know if he had sources or if this was his own opinion, that, a loss to the Jets and Stephen Ross could blow the whole thing up in Miami and get rid of Mike McDaniel and so on and so forth. So somebody's
nuts.
Yeah,
he is nuts.
Somebody said he said that he thinks that's a possibility, that they could get rid of the GM and the whole coaching staff and start afresh with Harbaugh or Payton or somebody like that. Now, I don't think that's the case, but if that happened, I could see Mike McDaniel coming into the Jets, and he's not going to be the offensive coordinator, because I think LaFleur is going to be the offensive coordinator. I think he's going, they're going to ride out Mike LaFleur 1 more year. But could you put him in an associate head coach position and the run game coordinator, just like he was in San Francisco with Mike LaFleur? Remember, San Francisco didn't have an offensive coordinator the year before Saleh came over to the Jets. Saleh was the defensive coordinator. Mike LaFleur was the pass game coordinator, and Mike McDaniel was the run game coordinator. They were both offensive coordinators. So
Yeah.
I see.
So,
I see. I see Nolte putting up the clown emoji. Is he calling us? Is he calling me a clown?
no. He's calling,
I was
he's
gonna say
calling,
Nolte, man. We're fam, bro.
no, he's calling the guy who wants to make you ravioli a clown.
Enough said.
Enough said.
Enough said. So no, he's not calling you a clown. Yeah, look, I think it's about time. Like it's time to bring it. It's time to even if it's not Frank, and again, I'll stand by that. There's no question he would have to be an assistant head coach for it to be realistic, and then it could be realistic, and I think he'd be great, just great in our locker room. But so good. I think realistically, they do have to go out and get a quarterback coach. That position has to now exist on our team again, and if it's a veteran guy, a guy that might be able to help out a little bit, maybe an emergency plan, like maybe think ahead, like if we get off to a really bad start and we're not scoring points, maybe prepare yourself and have a guy that can actually call the offensive plays if you strip MLF of that job. Like rather than have it like 6 weeks in, we're scoring 10 points a game 6 weeks into the season, and we're gonna say MLF, you're not calling the games anymore because like we strip. They don't fire him, but they strip him of that job. You better have somebody ready to do it, right?
Yeah.
Most definitely. Matthew Smith, what about bringing in Nathaniel Hackett? Genius idea, Matt. Genius idea. Joe Douglas should hire you as right-hand man right now.
Listen, I don't know. I don't expect there to be a major change in the coaching staff other than, maybe some of these, maybe Calabrese is reassigned or goes elsewhere.
Right.
We're going to need a new wide receivers coach. I would expect those kind of moves to happen. I don't think and I could be wrong, but my gut tells me that, we're running it back with Brick and LaFleur.
Yeah, same boat. Yeah, at this point, I would give them one more year, but the staff is on notice going into next season. They know what the expectations are, and nothing less is acceptable. Nothing less.
Yeah. Yeah. My fam, man. That's my fam right there.
People when they take it real personal when they think you're attacking, like I do too. But like Green Bean is the worst, man. When he's on Ryan's show on Jets Talk 24/7, one of the emoticons you get for being a member of Jets Talk 27 is a little box, and in the box it says "bad take." And one day, just to mess with him, every time Green Bean was talking, I put that emoticon in. Bad take. And he got so mad at me over it. And I'm like, dude, Ryan made it and put it there. He put it there. And I'm just messing with you. He got so mad that the next week he started talking and I wrote at Green Bean, good take. And he got just as mad.
Yeah.
Like he said, you still going with that? I said good take. And then like a month later, I put in, no opinion on your take. And then he finally didn't get mad and said, oh, you're still running with that gig. I don't know why I talked about all that, but I was pumped it up.
We have a super chat. Cafe BTW. Thank you very much. Yeah. JFM, New England, end of the first half. It'll live in infamy.
Horrendous moment for our year. It's good. It's actually a really good point.
Yeah, we'll have to do a recap. Like if we talk about moments that define the season, like 5 most positive moments or plays, 5 most negative ones. It's very hard to not make this your number 1 or number 2 most impactful play from a negative perspective for the season.
Yeah. That play. I mean, and there are others, but that play. That play was. That was brutal. The Berrios drop. Berrios drop was pretty bad.
That was bad, but there were a lot of things that kind of led up to it. I mean, that the JFM roughing the passer turned the game. The Berrios drop just ended the game when the Jets could have taken the lead a couple of times.
I'm just thinking about the games that followed after it. Like I thought it kind of just sucked
the
so much out of us.
Right touchdown, Detroit, like the 50-yard touchdown, 4th down.
My God, that touchdown.
Put that in your history books.
Yeah. We could definitely pull out like 10 very definitive plays. We could pull out 10 definitive plays from this year without question. that were just brutal. And 2 of them might be JFM roughing the passer call.
Yeah, true.
Yep, the New England punt return. Let's throw that in while we're at it. To end that game, let's throw in Marcus Jones.
That's on Braden Mann. If you watch that punt, that's on Braden Mann.
That one, that one I'll put on Mann. I've been pretty fair with him, but yeah, I've tried not to kill him. But yes, that one was on him. Yeah, not on special teams as much.
Yeah. Oh, this one was true too. That was a brutal.
Oh my God, CJ jumping
play. That was a turnover. Or that was a turnover led to a touchdown. My mind,
down.
I count that as a turnover. In my mind, I said there were 3 turnovers that day. There were the 2 turnovers, and then there was that. That in my mind, it was the same thing as a turnover. Instead of getting the ball back and getting out of the half, at worst case with the same score, the way it was, we give them a touchdown into going into the half. Ridiculous.
And we never recovered. That was the thing. We're at the point where it became more and more difficult for the Jets to overcome adversity. As the season went on and the losses started to pile, I think they started to doubt themselves that they could win those kinds of games. And I think that was the biggest change during the season. I mean, what happened to the team that did beat Buffalo, that came back against Cleveland, all those things. To me, we saw a very different team in the second half than we did in the first half.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what hurts, because I really thought this team would only get better as the year went on.
Yep.
Yeah, hard to do it when you throw for what? What were we throwing for? 14 touchdown passes all year long?
Wow.
Right? I mean, Zach has 6. And
Mike White had 4? Flacco had 5?
Yeah.
Maybe? And
Berrios has 1.
Oh gosh, that's reassuring. Yeah. That was actually Berrios' best play all year.
Yeah. Think about that, man. We've thrown for like 15 touchdown passes all season.
You know what? I'm going to pull that.
I don't know. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's much more than that.
Oh, here, yeah. You know what? I got the touchdown log right here. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. We had this many passing. Our first 7 touchdowns were passing touchdowns, and then our next 7 were rushing touchdowns. This is weird. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 passing touchdowns this season.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Zach leads our team with 6. Think about this. Tua had 6 in one game.
How many quarterbacks have more than 15 touchdowns passes this season? It's got to be, oh my God, at least 20 of them.
Jacoby only has 12, right? He has 12 touchdowns, 6 picks.
Well, he has Nick freaking Chubb running the football into the end zone.
That's what I told my brother. My brother was screaming at me. He doesn't get any touchdowns, though. I said, yeah, but he plays for Cleveland and Chubb.
That's like taking a shot at Jared Goff because they have Jamal Williams once they're in the red zone.
Right. Sometimes you got to look beyond certain numbers. So.
Right. Numbers in context, my friends. Numbers in context.
Yeah.
This is an interesting comment by Balls B. Hurton, because I thought I noticed it myself when Zach started to struggle and got benched. Berrios went to crap a little bit, and I think it may have affected him. It felt like a thing. Like, they're very close friends, and maybe it affected him. Good night, Paul. Thanks for joining today, man. Appreciate you. But maybe it affected him. Best friend, they're buds, and his best friend starts struggling and gets benched, and then it just kind of made him feel kind of left, I don't know, in a weird spot. I don't know.
Berrios' talent left when he dyed his hair to look like Eminem.
Yeah.
And it's funny, that worried me when me and Greenby were making fun of it. It did worry me too. I said, I don't like when people start doing shit like that. I don't like when players start doing stuff like that. Like DK Metcalf did that for Seattle. He had that great game where he ran down the guy after an interception, and everybody went nuts about his speed. And he really, in those few weeks, he kind of really started to stick out like a real superstar. And then all of a sudden, with the hair and this and that, same thing with Odell Beckham. He was this great player, and then boom, he starts to do all the as soon as they start doing stuff like that and focusing more on their hair and all this weird stuff and their touchdown celebrations, I'm sorry. I just noticed in the years I've been watching football, it's rarely led to them being a better player. Let's just say that. To me, it's like bring me back the Jerry Rice kind of player. Bring me back to the days where it was just a guy scored a touchdown, he handed the ball to the referee, and he just worked hard. And it wasn't about showing off and making big, fancy stuff. Like just play the game, win. Make that the thing you celebrate, winning.
Jeremy, really start. I'm waiting for you to break out. Get off my lawn.
I know, right? I'm starting to sound like a guy that needs to go with on that insurance guy commercial where he's teaching me how not to sound like my father. But still, I mean, I'm not against fun and celebrating on touchdowns or anything like that. But it's just become so individualized. Like it's so not a team thing when they go to these extents. Some of these players, it just doesn't feel like they're really there for the team. So like they need to stand out so much on their own. It's like, don't stand out on your own. Just be part of the team, man. Just win championships. All those old Hall of Famers that used to get inducted from the Steelers and from Green Bay and from those old championship teams, man, those guys weren't thinking about themselves. They got into the Hall of Fame because they were part of something. They were a great part of it, but it wasn't about them being about themselves.
It's part of society and it's part of culture now. When you have social media, when you have Sports Center and all these highlights, it individualizes the player. When you have all these avenues for endorsements and things like that, it wasn't that level before. Now you get the spoils before you win, where it used to be the other way around. I really think it's a society thing, not just a sports thing.
Yeah. Hey, Jeremy, would you highlight this chat from David?
I was already looking at it.
Yeah. I want to speak to this for a second, and I'm not.
I was going to actually ask you guys. I wasn't going to chime in because I think it was a little bit up and down. Like, I'm waiting for what you got to say, Dom. Like,
and listen, everyone. I don't take this as a negative, David, because I'm not saying you're wrong. I would never say anything like that. But I will say this: I think that Michael Carter II has had a really effective season. And I think that what you see him, as what you talk about him getting picked on, has more to do with the elite cornerbacks we have on the outside, that offenses are gearing everything in the middle of the field. Everything against the Jets, all the big plays or crossers or stuff like that's in the middle of the field, because that's the weak point. So if you have two studs on the outside, let's not mess with those studs. Let's play with the middle field. And who happens to be in the middle field? The slot cornerback, a lot of the time. So I think, and statistically, he grades out very, very well, Michael Carter II. PFF, and I don't report or anything. I try not to, quote or go by anything PFF says, but they put out an interesting, little chart the other day where it broke down like however they determine their effectiveness of cornerbacks, and they had them graded in 4 quadrants. They had the elites in the top left, where the yards per the lowest yards per reception, and then whatever the other factors were, and both DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner were in that elite section. As a matter of fact, Sauce Gardner was way up top at the elite section. Michael Carter was just on that borderline of elite and good. So I think Michael Carter has been really good. He's been put into a lot of pressure situations due to how strong our outside cornerbacks are, and the fact that they take anything from the hash outside just out of play. It's you just don't see long passes successfully completed on Sauce Gardner or DJ Reed. So you're going to attack the weak points of the defense, and that's our linebackers that can't cover. They can't cover anyone, and the slot guys. So I think Michael Carter's been pretty okay.
Yeah, I mean, I also, you play in a lot of zone. There's certain space. Your defense has to give something, right? I mean, there's no way to cover everything and not give anything. And part of their whole defense to me is is they give you little short things. They play a zone and they give you little short things.
Yeah.
They stop the big plays. That's the idea, is to stop the big plays, no outside plays. That's why we have those great corners and everything. And yeah, I mean, it's just like there's no way. It's like when we say take what the defense gives you, that means it's because every NFL defense has to give something. You don't have enough guys to stop everything completely. And we give you that little bit of space. In our thing is getting off the field on third down. That's why it backfires.
Right. Yep.
You know, like we're designed to give you that little bit. Okay, take that little bit, get it to 3rd and 3, get it to 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, and a certain percentage of the time we have to get off the field. And the games where we didn't get off the field, that's where we got eaten up.
Yeah.
There were way too many times that the opponent would have these 7 to 8 minute drives.
Yeah.
Way too many times. And that was what was frustrating. They could get sacks. They were good at getting sacks and things like that, and they could cover well, but there were just too many times. You know, I think these offenses started to figure the Jets out a little bit on how to attack them. They knew where not to go. And unfortunately, even with having 7 in coverage, we still struggle to cover some of those underneath routes. So that's why, again, I feel like I'm saying the exact same thing that I said last year and that a lot of us said. Off-ball linebacker has to be a priority to upgrade this offseason.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of spots that are going to have to be upgraded, you know, and again, not to beat a dead horse, but, you know, there's a lot of tough decisions that are going to have to be made if you're bringing in a $30 to $35 million quarterback. But
we need that quarterback.
No, absolutely. I'm not saying that's the calculated risk that you take.
Yeah. Want versus need. Those are the two words that we got to be very careful how we use them. We need a quarterback. We would want to upgrade like linebacker and things like that. We maybe want to upgrade from Corey Davis. We may want to upgrade from Braden Mann at punter, but some things you just have to live with because there's no such thing as a perfect team.
Yeah.
You just want to be good at the best at the most important spots, and quarterback is the premium one.
Yeah, for sure. Doesn't matter if the quarterback's not right. I say it all the time. So I want to answer Microfox. I've seen you post this about Bo Nix a couple times. Bo Nix has decided to go back to Oregon, so he will not be in the draft.
What a shame. Well, maybe not a shame because maybe we'll be.
He's
That's why we'll get him.
We'll get him in 2 years. It's good.
Yeah, he's another one of those guys that, you know, played out his COVID year and an injury red shirt, so he'll be 25 by the time he's draft eligible.
It does feel like we're Charlie Brown having the ball yanked from us, doesn't it?
Man, I gotta get as long as we keep swinging and missing at the quarterback position, that's exactly what it feels like.
Welcome to the channel, Wesley. By the way,
we gotta get one right by accident, don't we?
You would hope so, man. Whether it's through, you know, draft or free agency, there's got to be that something's got to break, man.
Yeah,
something's got to break.
Guys, we have to like say our goodbyes and like that kind of thing. Because my wife I promised her 2 hours. This went by so fast. I appreciate you guys being on it. Let's get.
You still have power, by the way? You still have power?
I still have. I have power because I'm here, so that's really good.
All right.
The next 2-3 hours are the critical hours. Like this is where it was supposed to start getting really bad. So, but for right now, I have power and I don't hear a lot of noise outside, which makes me think. So far, so good. The wind hasn't been too bad. So, because usually I'd hear it. I'd hear the whirling and the banging of branches against the buildings and stuff. Yeah. Kyle Ornsby, before we go, let's get to the super chat. Just getting on a little late, but Salah's comment about not giving up on Zach is BS. We can't win with him. What do we do? Draft or veteran? So we were talking about that a lot. So the first time, I think we all agree that the number one choice would be, I think we all agree the highest ceiling would be if we got Derek Carr. There's no question about it. I think we all would like to see someone else come in. And I think the verdict on Salah and Zach Wilson, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, is that Salah has to say that.
Yeah,
he has no
absolutely.
choice. Until we replace Zach, until he's no longer a New York Jet, he has to say that.
Here's the closest Robert Saleh will ever come to criticizing a player in a press conference. It's going to sound something like this. It's a tremendous opportunity for the young man. That's it.
That now the deep voice, you'll hear the word opportunity, and it'll say young man. That is the closest he will come to knocking a player.
If they bring in Derek Carr, like what about Zach Wilson? Zach Wilson will have an opportunity to learn, and whether it's here as the New York Jets or another team, he'll have an opportunity to show what he can do. We still believe.
We believe in him.
Thanks for the super chat. Really appreciate it, Kyle. Thanks for that, and thanks for showing up. And yeah, good to see you tonight, man. So anyway, Dom C, where could everybody find you?
You can find me
here
very easily here. Or whenever Jeremy invites me on. Hopefully soon enough, we're going to be kind of once the season is officially over, we're going to be talking about our Sunday show again, getting that stuff ready. I will be starting next week. I will be doing weekly. I will have a weekly spot videos right now on greenbeanjetsfan.com. So if you guys subscribe to Green Bean, you'll see videos put out for me. We're going to be talking a lot about the draft prospects, so on and so forth. I have a draft guide. I have a draft guide coming out. Should be out by the end of January, hopefully, if I can get all the schematics of it done. Where you guys can just read my takes on these guys and these prospects and the positives and negatives. And I'm always around on Twitter. Please hit me up. Feel free to drop some DMs if you want to talk, if you want to chat, anything like that. I'm always around.
Love it. And I think with the one thing we have to decide, Dom, when we say end of season, are we talking about end of Super Bowl? Or are we saying the end of the Jet season? So we're going to get started within a couple of weeks.
Listen, we can, we can always play it by ear.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting antsy for it. I kind of like once the Jets are done, once this game is over, I'm kind of like, okay, let's start thinking. Let's get going.
Yeah.
Let's start looking at players. Let's start talking, draft and free agency and next year and future and all that good stuff. Watts 2K99. Tell them what you got.
Well, you can find me at NY Sports Wicker Media, just like it says right below. Did a pretty huge rant after the Jets Seahawks game, which, like I told Jeremy, I'm starting to realize that people tend to watch me absolutely lose my freaking mind. And that's actually gained quite a few views. I did do a quick New York Rangers video shortly before the show tonight, but I'll be doing my usual thing this week, the last week of the regular season. So we'll be doing the bold predictions for Jets versus Dolphins. We'll be doing the game preview. We'll be doing the confidence picks for one more week. I will be doing – thanks, Jim. I appreciate you watching, man. Thank you very much. My mom was not proud. But we will be doing – this week I'm going to be doing my offseason predictions for the Jets. I'm going to talk coaches. I'm going to talk players. I'm going to talk about my one free agent that I have in mind that I think would be a good fit for them. Just making one crazy free agent prediction. I'll plan on having that up during this weekend, so check it out.
All right, everybody. And I will be, of course, be doing the last game with Miami on Sunday with Green Bean on his channel, Green Bean Jets fan. Yeah, I can't remember. I was about to call him New York Green Bean Jets fan. So anyway, we'll be on that in Jet Nation doing the watch party for the final Miami Dolphin game. Of course, I can only tell you if you subscribe to the channel, the one extra way, because I get complaints because I pop on without a lot of notice sometimes. I'll go live at any time. The way to not miss that if you're someone who's complaining, because I get people complaining, hey, I missed you. How you got to hit the notification bell. There's a little bell, and if you hit that bell, it gives you a chance to catch me live. So you can that's how you can catch me when I do those other live shows. The one show I think we only missed one in the last 13 months. The show that I try to always make sure is reliably always going to be there is Wednesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern. Will be here. That's always going to be the case. And there's going to be off season. You're going to see our off-season show on Sunday nights, Tom C. And then it's random. You never know when you're going to see me pop up. So if you want to be here for those live shows, just hit the notification bell, and you'll have a better chance to not miss those. And of course, me and my brother are constantly pumping out videos. I just ordered DVOA for my brother because he says that they give he likes their stats better because they think about more about meaningful snaps for quarterbacks, and they rule out snaps that don't really matter or mean anything. So my brother is a statistical analysis type guy, so he's going to break down stats and numbers, and we're going to be putting out videos about that as well. So thank you, everybody who's been here. What a great show it was tonight. And it's made possible by all of you, everybody that was here joining us in the chat and not in the chat. You guys make the channel click. Thanks so much for being here, for doing it all. And we'll see you soon. Take care. Don't not be Thibodeau. And here it comes. It's about to come in. Oh, my God. They didn't. They took Sauce Gardner. Oh, my God. They don't want an edge. Maybe he likes Jermaine Johnson at 10. Then we're not going to get a wide receiver? Garrett Wilson, wide receiver. Oh, my God. No edge.
Who's sitting there?
The Jets traded up. The Jets traded up. Are we taking JJ? Are we taking JJ? Because I know Braden is in New Zealand saying, we should get Lily, Mike. He's definitely saying that. JJ! We got Johnson! We got Johnson at 26! We got Johnson at 26! This is great! Yes! They took Roger McCreary. They didn't take Dean, and we traded up. We can get the Kobe Dean. We can get the Kobe Dean. It really is. They took Breece Hall. They took Breece Hall. Wow. I mean, look, I love Breece Hall. But there's also Jeremy Ruckert, who I think is the best tight end in the class personally. They took Jeremy Ruckert. They took Jeremy Ruckert. Yes! We got a Jeremy. We got a Jeremy. Oh, and the Jets pick, and it's Max Mitchell, offensive tackle. We needed that. That's wow. We took Michael Clemens. I never heard of him. A defensive edge.